Hello everyone and welcome into our latest live video. Today it's Friday, it's the last day of July 2026, July 31st. Thank you so much for joining me. We've got another mini PC to review. Look, there is no tiptoeing around this. The computer industry as a whole for consumers is becoming less and less popular. The amount of sales of new computers to home users is lower than I've ever seen. Businesses are buying just as much as they've ever bought. So strictly home users are starting to shy away from any further PC purchases this year, more than any time in the history that I can recall. And so the frequency of new machines coming out has been reduced as a result of the consumers not buying, but business class machines are coming out left and right no differently than ever before. That's not been slowed down at all by the RAM and hard drive storage, RAM, hard drive, and solid state drive storage shortages or GPU shortages. These are strictly home user restrictions that, put it price-wise out of a lot of reach of most people, or they simply refuse to pay it. Regardless, companies don't have this option, and it's pennies in a bucket to a company that's making millions of dollars, and they need a $800 computer or something to do that. It doesn't matter if it's a $400 computer or a $2,000 computer. They need a computer or they lose millions of dollars. So consumers are in a place of it's like a toy, it's a novelty, it's a gimmick, it's something they use to play with. And so that certainly explains the market, but it doesn't mean the market's dying. It means the segment of that market is failing. And this has happened throughout history with regards to other industry as well. So whether or not it comes back, I guess it depends on how long it stays this way, because once the consumers have forgotten about you, there's a very good chance they ain't coming back, right? That's just historically proven, and it's not just a computer thing, it's just anything. And rest assured that computers aren't going anywhere. Business drives about 90% of all computer sales around the globe. So when consumers stop buying, they only represent 10% of the market. Now, you may not care about that because you're a consumer and you're upset about it, but rest assured, it's not just you, it's every consumer. I've never met a consumer in my life that said, oh, these prices, they don't matter to me. If I need a computer, I buy one. Never, ever heard that from a consumer. The only time I ever hear that's from a business, and they mean what they say, they do buy them. So since they're buying 9 out of 10 computers, businesses are, consumers are only buying 1 out of 10. That just reassures you it's not that your perspective is accurate with regards to the industry, but the result of marketing to consumers is reducing, and the result of innovative tech aimed at consumers is also reducing because the cost of it is going up. Most tech has RAM or storage of some kind, including cars. Cars have always been expensive, so if it makes a difference in the price of a car by $1,000 or $2,000, which I don't think it does, but if it were to be that much, you're still financing it over a period of years in most cases. And so for most people, it's not that big of a deal. But when you were used to paying $78 for some RAM, and that same RAM is $500 today, there's definitely a perspective skew there that seems to be expensive when, if you go back far enough, that's still pretty cheap compared to what computers used to cost in the 90s and early 2000s, but it's all based on perceptions. And of course, the value of the dollar has changed too. So when you consider that it not only cost more money back in the 90s and early 2000s, the value of the dollar was stronger, meaning it costs even more by today's value of dollar. So it's really still inexpensive by that comparison alone, but not by what you paid last year, right? And I think that's where people are hung up. But the good news is if it is a toy or a novelty to you, you don't need it. You might want it. I mean, I might want a Ferrari, but I don't need one. And so I do without. And you use what you've got, be glad you've got it. And in the meantime, there are still new products coming out for consumers. They're just not coming out as frequently as they used to. That's all. So this is one of those products today. We're going to get into this with this mini PC from Kamrui, which is what we would call a budget PC, which is now around $400. I'd say $300 to $400 is now a budget PC if it contains RAM and solid state drive. because just buying the RAM and solid state drive can set you back $300 or $400 on your own personal builds. That's where we're at today, and that's why we're going to take a look at this to see what your options are. If you do want to, purchase a new computer, you can afford one. You can, but you might want something better. I mean, I would like a Ferrari. Okay, I would like something better than what I have, but I've learned to live without it. Life goes on, so what? So that's the attitude I recommend. I think it's a healthier attitude, but to each their own. And I want to remind everybody that our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs, they're the ones I buy my Windows and Office license keys from for my business, for my customers. I have to buy from a legitimate source. I can't roll the dice on my business gambling on whether or not license keys are going to work or activate, or if I have a problem with them, that the company is going to respond to my emails and be helpful. So when I found VIP-URCDKEYs, I've been using them ever since. And well, the bottom line is you can buy from them at the same price I pay and get the same support I get. I don't know of any other person that works in my industry that would tell you where they're getting or sourcing their parts or software, because it's bad for business. But YouTube is a part of my business, and I don't treat my audience any differently than I treat my customers. And so for that reason, if I put this video up here, which is just from a couple months ago, on any of my videos that are live, like this one, if you click on the little box there underneath the video and click more, that's our video notes. That's where all the links are for everything we talk about in the video, which includes the links to Windows and Office license keys. Now, you can go to the site VIP-URCDKEY and search for it yourself. If you want to work that hard, go for it. This will just take you right there. And then, like here, we got Windows 11 Pro. It's $33. I hit the Buy Now button, and it's going to ask me to log in. It needs me to log in, so it has a way to process my payment, send me a receipt, download instructions for the software, as well as the product key that you're paying for. But in addition to that, if you put my name in the promotion code box right here, you'll save 25%. Now, I don't make any more or less money, regardless of how much you pay. If you buy 10 keys, if you buy 1,000 keys, if you choose to use my promo code, I can't emphasize this enough. I'm paid the same. So you want to save money, use it. You don't want to save money, don't. Then the next screen, you'll see you have all different kinds of ways to pay, all the popular ways. You would buy anything, anywhere online in the world today. It's the same. And then choose how you want to pay, hit the Pay Now button, and you will fill out the same forms you fill out on every e-commerce site that ever existed online. Within about 2 minutes, on average, it takes about 2 minutes. Doesn't matter what time of day, what day of the week, doesn't matter if it's a holiday. None of that matters. Regardless of whenever you decide to purchase, within about 2 minutes, you should have an email confirming receipt of your purchase, followed by, or included in, depending on how they're sending them out now, the download link if you need the software. I always get the software independently, but you're still downloading it from Microsoft. And then the product key used to activate the software. If you run into any problems, they have 24/7 chat support, and they will help you out, guaranteed. They'll make it right if there's a mistake, or if you're making a mistake. Their tutoring you is free. Free education. If you made a mistake, they'll help you correct it. If they made a mistake, they will correct it. But you have to let them know. They cannot read your mind. Now, if there's any circumstance where what I'm telling you is not your reality, you reach out to me directly, and I'll make sure that your situation is resolved. Now, even though I don't make money if you buy or not buy the key, if you're my customer, you don't care about that. If you're my customer and I sell you a computer and the software isn't activating, you're going to call me, aren't you? You're going to say, hey, this thing you sold me isn't working the way you said it would. And if I don't fix it, I'm probably going to lose that customer. And why would I lose a customer over a $15 or $20 product key? It doesn't make any sense. And it wouldn't make any sense for VIP-URCDKEYs to lose a customer over it either. That's why I'm so confident. And I know from people writing to me, if they've ever had problems, that if that ever happens, they always take care of them. There's been a few occasions where there's been some miscommunication, and I've stepped in and made it right. Even though I'm basically working for free, even if I refund your money out of my own pocket. And let me tell you something, think about this logically. If I'm having to refund people's money out of their pocket a bunch of times, you think I'm going to sit here and recommend you go take your business over to them? You've got to be out of your mind. So all I'm trying to tell you is that if you're worried about scamming, if you're worried about a real product, if you're worried about, being ghosted after the sale, I got your back. And I need to know about it if it happens, because if I find out that any company I endorse here isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, they won't be endorsed here anymore. All right. So I take that pretty seriously because my business is on the line. And all I'm doing is extending this to my audience. So I hope you take advantage of it. And it's not a gamble. When you get a product key from them, it's going to work. And if there's any problems, even if it's that you just don't know what you're doing, they will tutor you for free. Okay? In that regard of getting it activated, not in how to use it. They're not going to go through an entire Excel spreadsheet 6-month class, but they're going to make sure that it installs correctly and activates correctly, even when they didn't do anything wrong and you didn't pay for private tutoring. That's how good their support is. Now, with that, I also want to give a shout out to our good friend Buster, Peter Laycock, joining us all the way from Edinburgh, Scotland, sends us a very generous Amazon gift card, as he always does prior to the show. Thank you so much, Buster. We hope you're feeling well today. And I also see Dean Liv, who has renewed his support. Thank you, Dean. Thanks for renewing your support. And all of our friends in green supporting us here, such as Sean Skinner. Let's see, Luke Greeny also joining us. There's Andy W6AD and Bradley Morris. I also see W.E. Holmes joining us. The Muffin Man says hello. And then we've got a lot of members in there also that are just watching in the general public. They're not supporting us financially, but we're happy to have you here just the same. And that's Tony Aindow, as well as, let's see, Peter Retired says hello. Xander Vanderhoven, Leafy watches us from the Netherlands, joining us. There's our friend Buster saying hello to everybody from Edinburgh. Buster says it's 56 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 13.3 degrees Celsius right now, which is about 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night over there right now. 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Phoenix, Arizona, as we broadcast live, unrehearsed, unscripted, and unedited. David Herzog says hello, along with Tech Smart Computers. Elijah 52 Dickens joins us. Jim Kenny, Paul Vercher, and Mark Leibowitz. Mark is a fellow computer technician out in the Chicago area. Mark says, I haven't done any year-over-year comparisons, but it feels like I'm selling as many computers as ever this year as I was in the previous years. And my clients seem to be getting a little bit more price conscious about it, but they're still buying. So businesses don't have a choice. You can close your business up or you can buy the computer. Which one's cheaper? Home users, it's a toy, right? If it's not a toy, then they'd buy it. There wouldn't even be a discussion. So if you go without your toys, you'll be okay. Let's see, Dazzle555 says hello. Welcome in. There's 3D Everything, Eddie Casanova, Mark Baggett, and David Graham saying hello. Our friend Rick Lakes says hello. And Nick Poverman says hello. And Patrick Manny joining us. Dustin Fuller says hello. Edward Bass joins us along with Richard DeFries. Victor Torres, Martin Postema, all joining us. Stephen DeToit says hello. Mark Leibowitz says, my home users are still buying as well, but the primary reason they're buying computers is because I can show them mini PCs like today's Kamrui and laptops like Nemo's. Oh, they're still solid good value for these. Well, you'll see. Charles Eslek joins us as well. And let me just check something here. I don't know if I just got a message or what happened. Oh, Frankie B sends a very generous Amazon PayPal contribution. Frankie, thank you so much. I'm a little baffled because I usually have that alert sound turned off during the show, and somehow I turned it back on between between when I woke up and when we started the show. I was playing with my phone, and I must have had the volume turned on. So if I don't get the alerts, just drop me a message in the chat and let me know if you've sent anything, and that way I can say thank you to you, acknowledge that I received it. And Frankie, what generosity, man. Thank you so much for your continued support and your friendship. All right, guys, so today, what I've got before you is the Kamrui. They have it the Panova series, the Hyper series. They call this the Hyper series. One of the things that some PC manufacturers do, like this one, is they will recycle the same model name, even though they've changed all of the specifications. So if you go looking for this online, you'll probably find there's about 5 or 6 different versions over the last 2 years. I think there's 3 versions today of the same system equipped differently. And when I say equipped differently, on this unit, the RAM is soldered on. On last year's unit, the RAM was removable. The difference between them is the processor that's on there is different, but it still carries the H1 model name. So when you're watching, pay careful attention to the specs. Because if this has 16 gigs of RAM and they sell another version with 32 because the RAM is soldered on, you should expect a price difference. I know a little bit about this. Kamrui sent this to us for free in exchange for us to do our review under no terms or conditions other than, I'm just going to be honest. And we've had Kamrui products here on the show before, and I think they're a good solid budget brand, honestly. When I'm looking for a high-end computer, I don't go looking at Kamrui, but that's not their specialty. Their specialty is really in the budget line, and that doesn't make them bad or less desirable in any way, because it's all about quality and value. And if I go looking at the website to give you an idea of what we're going to look at today, just the current version of this unit that we have, let me get over to the window capture. We'll look at it together. See what they sent us. Okay, it's a Ryzen 7 7735HS CPU. At $500, you're getting 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage included, but the RAM is soldered on. But that's not all. Wait, there's more. This is an 8-core 16-thread CPU with 16 megs of L3 cache. It's Zen 3 up to 4.75 gigahertz of frequency. Your Cinebench scores in single core and multi-core are already done for you here on their site. It's when you see LP, that's low power. That means generally it means it's soldered on RAM. I've never seen it any other way, but there's no technical reason they couldn't socket low power RAM. But generally speaking, I don't think I've ever seen an exception. So if you're looking at the specs of any computer, that includes RAM, and that RAM is described as DDR, but there's an LP or low power in front of it, you should assume that is soldered on RAM. And that's not a bad thing. This isn't 2010 anymore, guys. This whole fixation and everything you learned about RAM is great if you want to go back to 2010. Or if you have very special needs, well, software requirements, resource needs. But you wouldn't need me to tell you that. Some people just, they have this information from 15, 20 years ago, and they think that that information is still valid today. And I'm telling you, most of what you learned with computers and Windows 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it's all changed. Everything you know to be true, you should start questioning and verifying if it's still true today. And this is one of the things with RAM. If you're a gamer, you know, look, gaming is a very expensive luxury. Gaming PCs are the single most expensive PC you can buy. Above a gaming PC, you buy a server. That's all that's above it. And, you know, you can buy a high-end workstation cheaper than a gaming PC. You can buy a high-end PC. You could buy a mid-range PC, probably 3 or 4 of them, for the price of a single gaming PC. All right, so if you want a game, that is and always has been an expensive luxury, and it's not gotten any cheaper. Just set your expectations. There's nothing unique about Kamrui or any particular PC manufacturer that we cover here when we're talking about certain price ranges. They may say it's gaming capable. They might say this unit is capable of gaming, and that's true for older games or games that don't require as many resources, okay? So they're not lying, it just depends on what your definition of gaming is. Because this has a built-in AMD Radeon 680M graphics card, and we've got Wi-Fi 6 on this with Bluetooth 5.2 with a total TDP of 28 watts. It does have USB Type-C that supports 4K output. It has an HDMI port and a display port that also support 4K output, all at 60 Hertz. Storage is a 512 gig M.2 NVMe that's, well, it says Gen 3 or Gen 4. I don't know which that is. 5 reasons why you want soldered on RAM. It's faster, it's cheaper, the machine is smaller, and it's far more reliable. Okay, so everybody who thinks soldered on RAM is bad are living in the past. There are still people that want to open up their machine and modify it. Those days are gone. There's no reason to do that anymore. If you need more storage, that's one thing. But if you need more RAM, then something about your computing needs has changed, because the amount of RAM you use is the only amount of RAM you need. Having more of what you're not using is wasting your money, and that's why that's an outmoded thought process that no longer applies to modern computers. It's your money. I'm just trying to save you some money, my friends. I don't make any money or lose any money if you don't want to believe me. Now, they're showing some examples of how you might use this H1 Kamrui Mini PC, obviously for business, design, digital signage. It's cheap enough, right, to just be a signage computer. A little overkill for that, but you could totally do that. You could use it as a home theater PC. You could use it for studying if you're a student. Light games, right? Games that are not resource heavy. Certainly older games are going to play no problem. League of Legends and you know, probably Valorant, stuff like that, no problem at all. Obviously, online shopping, browsing, email, day-to-day tasks that, you know, adulting is great. Now, you can see here the RAM is soldered on. It says easy to upgrade. Mara pointed this out. We got a typo, easy to upgrade, but you cannot upgrade the memory. Easy to upgrade. Let's just pretend that says upgrade. Easy to upgrade memory. No, this memory is not replaceable, upgradable, or repairable. It is a physical part of the machine. So you'd have to buy a whole new motherboard. So we've sent them an email to let them know about the typo. I think this is a copy and paste from the previous H1. You see, the H1 model name goes back a couple of years. And a couple of years ago, that RAM was socketable DDR4. Here's the thing, though. Their marketing company just copied and pasted it. So even Kamrui themselves is confusing themselves by not giving these upgraded models upgraded model names. I mean, they called it the H1A or the H11. They didn't do that. This makes it confusing for you, the consumer, to make the purchase of the right unit without paying attention to all the details. And clearly their marketing company is confused. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to straighten all this out. I'm here to tell you this is not done willfully. They screwed up, bottom line, and they made it easy to screw up because they've confused themselves or the people that work for them, and they're confusing the consumers. So by airing this out, I want you to understand what to look for, what to watch for before you click the buy button, so you don't end up buying the wrong thing by mistake. Okay, with regards to the interface, we got the power button, audio jack, 2 USB Type A's, and a Type C in the front. Going around the back, you've got 4 additional USB ports here. These are USB 3.2 Gen 1s. They're just 5 gigs per second, but still, they're not USB 2. You notice there's no USB 2 on this? Hallelujah. You notice there's not just 5 ports. You've got 7 USB ports on this. This LAN jack, that's 2.5 gigs. That's not a cheap 1 gig. Then you've got your DisplayPort output and your HDMI output and your power input up here where it says DC. Okay, so if we go over to Amazon, what does it sell for in Amazon? It's quite a bit cheaper. Does that price look better now? At $429.99, remember to look at these specs. 7735, yep, same CPU. 16 gigs LPDDR5 RAM, yep, same RAM. And 512 SSD. I don't know why it says micro desktop computer. This is another, you know, I'm pretty sure English is a second language for these folks, but at this point they should be using AI to correct this, in my opinion. AI would speak better English or translations than whoever's doing this. That's one good thing I can say about AI is that it is far more accurate, especially in translation, than most humans are. And so they should be taking advantage of that. And we'll let them know our opinion, but you know, what they choose to do. This is a little confusing. It says Office Home. This does not mean you get Microsoft Office. This means it can be used in an office or a home. That should probably be removed because it's too open to interpretation. But you can see the exact same computer right here is $509.99. That's $90 more. Why? It's $80 more. Why? Because this one has double the storage. There's another typo, 1 TBB. I don't know what a TBB is. Sounds like something you need to get a shot for. Again, just really bad English translations here. But you can see people have bought the unit, but if you notice, if you click on the reviews here, they may not be reviewing this specific unit. If we scroll down and look, easy to upgrade. If we go down and look, you'll see reviews for a Ryzen 5 7430. That's not what this is. You'll see a review for another Ryzen 5 7430. Okay, finally, here's a review for this unit. Someone's using Linux Mint on it. They don't like the Realtek network wireless card because of Linux. Screen, someone's saying the graphics is bad. This is again a different unit, Ryzen 5. Ryzen 5. You've got to pay attention to these reviews, folks. No differently, like this is the R2544. This is how many different versions that they sell just on this single Amazon page. When you look at what's being sold here and you notice all these boxes, these are all different products, every one of these. Ryzen 5, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, Ryzen 7, 2544 is an AMD chip, and then I don't know what that is, 7530U. So these are all different CPUs, and in some cases, the Mini PC itself is in a different case, and other times it's the same case. You must pay attention to the details because, in my opinion, this should not be called an H1. Maybe it's not. Let's see if we click on that. Do they still call it an H1? You know, here's another problem. It just says it's a Kamrui Mini PC. So while they're including nonsense text, like all of this could have been removed, they could have simply put in the model number, and that would help you, the consumer, to find what you're looking for, or to make it clearer to you which model you're looking for. Sometimes they list the model underneath, you know, this area here. And I think that's one of my biggest complaints with some of these Asian manufacturers is the culture difference in China is very different from the culture difference in the United States or Europe. And if they want to sell here and they want to get your business, they need to work the way others, like their competitors in the marketplace, work. Same warranties, competitive pricing, accurate descriptions, and trying to be as clear as possible with regards to what it is you're buying. And we often relay kind of information like this. This one has a model Kamrui E3B. This one has nothing. This one, you see, they're inconsistent. Sometimes they include the model number. I don't see a model number in any of these other than that first one. So here's a Panova P1. We reviewed that in the past. This isn't rocket science to put the manufacturer, the model, and the model number. That's it. That should be standardized regardless of who you are on eBay. If you sell socks, I expect different types of socks, crew socks, tube socks, ankle socks, right, to have different models. And that should be the first thing in the line, in the description, so you know exactly what you're ordering. But these are recommendations to help them. I'm not trying to belittle or insult them. I'm simply trying to be helpful and saying, look, the way that they've done this is a little confusing. And then when you put all those models together, the way Amazon combines all the reviews for every model listed on that page is true for anybody that sells multiple products on Amazon. And you may not be aware of that. So you might be reading positive reviews for something you're not even buying. And Amazon is saying, well, you're not paying attention. So for Americans, it makes sense to separate things out because Americans are impatient. They don't pay attention, generally speaking, and they're very quick to hit the add to cart, and they're also very quick to return it and get angry and leave a negative review when they feel they've been tricked, when it's all on you to know what you're buying. And they just could make that step a little easier and reduce the number of returns and happier customers, have happier customers by making sure it's very clear what you're buying. We tell them, okay, we tell them. They're not listening. Whatever they're doing, apparently they're happy with it, or a message isn't falling in the right ears. But you're the ones making the purchases, so you're the ones that need to know. Okay. Let me get back over to the chat here. There's Bike Man joining us. Bruce, it's your PC, says hello. Bruce says, I remember when Bill Gates said nobody would ever need more than 64 kilobytes of memory. Well, at that time, it was true. Computers didn't exist yet, nor did software that ever needed anything close to that. When you shift reality, when you say, I remember when they told Thomas Edison he couldn't make a light bulb. I remember when they told, it's always naysayers, right? It's always people who always tell you what you can't do because nobody's done it before. And then, you can't land a rocket. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You can't make an electric car that's profitable. They've already tried and failed. Don't waste your time. That is standard, borderline, basic, no education, negative, typical human behavior, and you should expect nothing else. So when the owner of a computer software company tells you nobody should need more than 64K of RAM, he wasn't wrong. If you still lived when he said that, he'd still be right. But things have moved on. And no one has a crystal ball to know which way things are going to go and how things are going to evolve. Because Bill Gates doesn't make the hardware, he just makes the software. And the software that runs within the operating system has grown and grown and grown. Remember, back in the day, it wasn't a coloring book. Windows didn't exist. You had to type and you had to understand how to speak computer language. If you did not speak the language, you could not use a computer, generally speaking. People could bring up menus and you push 1 or 2, but that had to be custom made for you. Whether you did it yourself or you hired somebody, that was how it was. And it was absolutely 100% true. So it's very easy to ignore the reality of the time in which that was said. That's such a simplistic mindset. It was 100% true when he said it. Okay? And he doesn't have a crystal ball more than anybody else. And what you're implying into that is that you've interpreted that to mean that never in the history of the world or in the future will anybody need more. He never said that. He was speaking in that time. And in that time, he was 100% correct. Times have changed, but people don't let that go because that's how people are. If they can find a reason to belittle you, if they can find a reason to make fun of you, even though you weren't wrong because they want to twist what you said to make it so that they can tease you, that is so common on human behavior. My advice to you is rise above that basic level of human psychology because it's everywhere. It's just sheep. Don't be a sheep. Think outside the box. Don't join in with the rest of these people. They're simpletons. If that's your logic, then you need to understand that people are now going to judge you in the same way that you're judging him, and you're going to feel it's not fair. Well, what you're doing isn't fair. It's karma. So I'm just saying, do what you want. But if I was you, I wouldn't do that. All right. So anyway, it's just a thing that won't die. Anytime people have a way to just make fun of somebody, take something completely out of context to twist it, it is effectively a form of bullying. It's I don't find that admirable. I don't think that's a quality of human behavior that I want to encourage. But you do you. Okay, you want to do that, it's your choice. People say, hey, it's just a joke. It's a joke for people who get it, and it's an insult for people who don't. You know, if one person's only the one person telling the joke is the one laughing, that's called bullying, just so you know. When you're teasing the kid at high school, or you're the one being teased, and you're upset, maybe you're crying, and they're laughing, that's called bullying. If you're the only one laughing, you're being a bully. Just for your own information, don't put that on to the person you're bullying, that you're not doing anything wrong. The minute that you're the only one laughing, that's all you should need to know. Okay, today we're going to unbox and take a look at the inside. We'll look at the BIOS. You will see how upgradable this is, and we'll verify the specifications of the Kamrui H1. So let's get started. Let me, let's see, do I want to go to a close-up camera? Let's go to a close-up camera. Here we go. Okay, here we go. This is, I've never had this out of the box. I've saved the unboxing. In fact, it's got a piece of tape right here I have to cut, because I like to share this experience with you. Because if you were to order one of these, you're going to have to do everything I'm about to do, and most content creators skip over it because it takes too much time. I think most content creators would skip over most of their life, just get right to the end, because it takes up too much time. But this is the reality if you want to purchase one, and that's what we're here to show you. And we'll show you what it's supposed to look like when it's out of the box, so you can tell if you've got a returned one or if anything's missing. So I'll just set the little box cover here over to the side. And just a generic white box. It says Mini PC. Let's get this opened up. And inside you'll see we've got this completely wrapped up. Yikes! Almost flew out of my hand. So there's the Mini PC. We'll set that there. And then looking underneath here, let's lift up this box. You'll see there's a couple other boxes down here. One should be our power brick. Let's see. We've got a power cable. We've got a VESA mounting bracket and VESA mounting bracket screws. And we've got a short HDMI cable. That's really only needed if you mount this behind a monitor where you don't need a 5-foot cable dangling around, getting in the way. And then there's this other box right here, and this box contains, well, it's got to be the power brick, right? Let's see. Yep, that's all that's in there. This is your power brick. It's a standard laptop style power plug, that's included. And then of course a barrel style power connector on this end. The power brick wattage, let me see if I can read. I got to get my other glasses to read this. It says 19 volts, 3.42 amps, 64.98 watts. So it's a 65 watt power adapter. And what's good about that is it means it's going to cost pennies a day to run this, a very low power. That also means, what am I doing? Let's go over here. Where's my camera? Hold on a second. I've lost camera one. There it is. So what that means is you should have much quieter fans because it doesn't run as hot, and a lower electric bill because it doesn't consume as much power. The more power it consumes, the more expensive it is to run. The noisier it can be because the hotter it gets, the fans have to be more aggressive. Ferraris aren't known for being quiet. All right, so let's get this out of the way because we don't need any of this to do our testing. Now, my debate right now is deciding if I want to open this first or fire it up first. And I think I want to open this first because I'm kind of curious how the inside of it is, if it matches the pictures on the screen. Now, as I recall, there are some Kamrui models where you can just pull the lid off. This does not appear to be one of those. There are some rubber feet on the bottom here, and if I recall correctly, these are plugs. These aren't. On other Kamrui models, they don't have sticky feet. They've got rubber plugs, which I much prefer because then you don't have to worry about the stickiness wearing out. But let me just, I don't know if I know what I'm talking about, so let me just check. To get these rubber feet out, you might be able to use a finger Oh, those are sticky. These are sticky feet. These are not rubber plugs. See, that's why we check. There's no standard from Kamrui anyway on how they're choosing to do this. So some machines may not have the screws covered up. Other machines do. Sometimes they use rubber plugs, which I prefer. Sometimes they use rubber feet. The problem with using the rubber feet, as I mentioned, the adhesive starts to wear through, and then they don't become, they don't stick, they don't adhere very well. And in trying to get replacement feet, good luck, because if you find even a replacement rubber foot on Amazon or something, chances are it'll be thicker or thinner and the machine will wobble. So you got to do all four. And then the minute you keep opening it, you know, you're right back to square one again. You could always use something like hot melt glue or something to fix it yourself, but good luck getting it back off. Then you're going to start tearing the rubber feet because you've glued it too strong. In general, there shouldn't be much reason to open this. You can't upgrade the RAM. The most you can do is change the solid state drive. I think you can add a second one. I think the picture showed 2. But let's open it up and verify. Let's see. I have a screwdriver in here somewhere in this drawer. I haven't used it in a few days, so it seems to have... I don't know. Where did it go? It's got to be in here. It probably slid all the way to the back. It's right in front of me the whole time. Let's see if that's going to work. Sometimes you need sort of the jeweler screwdrivers or the specialty screwdrivers from... Let's see. Is this... Gosh, that's so weird. Something in my OBS has changed, so I'll have to look at that after the show. But my shortcuts to changing cameras aren't working anymore, and OBS just had a big update, so I am sure I have to reset that again, but no big deal. I'll just have to remember that for the rest of the show. Okay, so we're going to take out these 4 screws. You can see that goes in right to about there. So overall, just a regular Phillips #1 driver should be all you need. This happens to be a JIS or a Japanese industrial standard screwdriver. And they sell these on Amazon. They're like $8. And I just have a magnetic magnetizer on there so that it holds onto the screws for me. Okay, with that removed, I do see what appears to be a little slot. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's right there. And my guess is I need some kind of a spudging tool, like maybe this one, and put it into this slot right here. And just pry up gently. See it starting to come up. And we'll go over here. Let's see. Right there. There we go. And if you have any difficulty with it, don't force it. Just very gently. You see I'm giving this a little twist. And then, of course, if I just move it around with my hand a little bit, be careful, because on some mini PCs there are wires, or there could be the Wi-Fi antennas, or there could be a fan, or in this case we've got the thermal paste for the NVMe drive there. And these days, with RAM and storage being so expensive, it is highly likely you're going to see brands of solid state storage and RAM you've never seen before. They're probably more local to China. Let me bring this up to the camera. Hold on a second. I need to switch. Let me go back to the... I'm still... have that old habit. I gotta fix that. All right, so here's the inside of the machine. Here's what we're looking at. What we've got here is the NVMe drive made by a company called Durler. This is an NVMe SSD Gen 3x4. It says right on it. See if the camera will focus on that. And this is our Wi-Fi card. This is a second M.2 slot here. Your RAM, obviously, you don't see any because it's soldered onto the board. This is our BIOS battery right here. It goes to that little connector. There's the close-up of the front. Sides are just vents. Your CPU's up on the top. That's where all your main cooling is happening. That's why the vents are, there we go. That's why the vents are up at the top, because your CPU's up on top. But this is the only area you would get into. These little adapters here, these plugs, these are for options that this computer doesn't include, that other similar models that share this board may be offered by the manufacturer. So this connector, this one, and this one. Are there any others in there? Is this going to come out? Felt like it was moving. Maybe nothing's holding this in. Maybe it's just the plastic case. Not that we would need to get in there. And I would be very cautious because you don't want to rip the wires for the antennas that are right here. And then the antennas are probably glued to the front. And if you pull this out, you may tear the wires for your Wi-Fi. Over here on the back, you'll see we've got a sticker that tells you don't plug this into the network until you get to the Windows desktop, because otherwise you might be sitting there waiting on updates. And of course, you've got your Go Faster stickers from AMD right there. Okay, so that's everything I think we need to know about this. Unless you guys have any specific questions for me, I will put it back together. Let me give that just a second and give you a chance to let me know if you have any questions. And take a look in the chat here and see if I'm missing anything. Hey, John Rogers joins us along with Boss saying hello in the chat room. And Richard DeFry says he's going to catch up with us tomorrow as he's off to the pub. Have a drink on me, Richard. David Graham's talking about minis. Minis can be hard to fix. Absolutely, but it depends on the mini, because when you're buying anything these days, especially inexpensive things, remote controls for your television, it's cheaper to go on Amazon and just buy another one than it is to fix one. A lot of small, inexpensive things are cheaper to replace than to repair. If you're going to buy something that's expensive, and by expensive to me, I'd say about $1,000 or more, you always have the option, pretty much anywhere you buy new, to pay for an extended warranty. So if that extended warranty gets you to 3 years, you're good for 3 years, right? That means no matter what, well, I don't know that I could say no matter what, but you should have some peace of mind that if the unit should fail, because you bought the extended warranty, it's not your problem, it's somebody else's problem. The idea of modular repairability comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of a bigger machine and a more expensive machine. So if you want that, you know, just look at the price of building a desktop computer that's equivalent to this. This is much cheaper. You could repair the bigger computer, you can replace components, or you could just buy another one of these. Which one would be cheaper? Furthermore, there's framework laptops that are fully modular. You'd be one of the most expensive laptops you could buy. It's your money, right? These days, if it's under $1,000, you've got your regular manufacturer's warranty. Some cases, that's 2 years from some manufacturers. Nemo, I think, is 3 years. And, you know, bear that in mind when you're making the purchase. What's my warranty? And how much am I paying? How much is the extended warranty? And how far will it extend it? This idea of taking it apart yourself is becoming less and less possible, in as much as you used to be able to change a battery in a smartphone. Can you change a battery in your smartphone? Those days have long since passed. I mean, there are phones out there that do have replaceable batteries, but they are big money. So anyway, to just understand the economics that are at play here, because if you wanted that, they still sell it. But the reason we're looking at this is for the value. We're not looking for repairability. And I'll be honest, as a computer repair technician, repairs for these are few and far between. I mean, sure, sometimes things happen, and sometimes it's nobody's fault. Sometimes it could be a power outage that causes a problem. But, you know, you could say the same thing about every single NAS you've ever seen that's, Synology, QNAP. You can't repair any of those. This is no different. Most laptops you can't repair. It's basically the same exact thing. You buy the warranty simply because laptops will be worth more money. Or if you bought a budget laptop, it's out of warranty. It's just cheaper and faster to buy a new one. Probably get an upgrade. And on top of that, have a brighter screen, a new battery, and a brand new warranty. And when you say, okay, well, if I take this to the repair shop or if I try to fix it myself, you won't get the solution as fast. You won't get the solution with as good of a guarantee, and you're not making it any better. So you could do all three of those things instantly with the click of a mouse and ordering online. It's up to you, but you still have choices. Nobody's taking any choices from you here, just so we're clear. All right, let's see. Frank wants to know the cost of this. The cost of the unit we're looking at today is the 16 gig 512 gig storage, and that right here shows at $429.99 on Amazon right now, which appears to be 7% off. If we believe that, I don't know. It's cheaper to buy it off Amazon, and it will arrive faster, and Amazon has a free 30-day return policy where it will cost you nothing to return it if you don't like it for any reason, even if you just changed your mind. Amazon will give you a full refund and pay for the return shipping in the first 30 days. So great peace of mind there that you don't have to worry about being stuck with it. So if you want to save some money, or try and save money and order it from AliExpress or eBay, you're going to be stuck with it. And if you don't like it or there's a problem with it, in most cases warranties are not transferable. So in other words, if you buy a computer from eBay, unless the seller is the manufacturer on eBay, you won't get any warranty with it. A lot of people don't seem to understand that warranty requires a proof of purchase, right? And proof of purchase off eBay or a garage sale is basically the same thing. It's invalid. You have to be the original purchaser. So if you want that warranty, you need to buy from an authorized reseller. And in some cases, it's more restrictive than other, Kamrui is not that restrictive. But if the eBay seller is just some generic somebody that, doesn't work officially with Kamrui, then for all we know, you bought a unit that was already 6 months old. So you don't get a 1-year warranty. It's hard to establish when did the warranty begin on that, because it wasn't when you bought it off eBay. And that's pretty much true of any warranty on any product ever sold through any online or in person on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, etc., etc. That's been as long as I can remember. If you bought a Hyundai automobile with a 10-year warranty, that's only a 10-year warranty for the original buyer. If you trade the car in or sell the car, that warranty is gone. So the next person who buys it only has what's left, if there's anything left, of the bumper-to-bumper warranty. But the powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty is not transferable, never has been. It's amazing to me how many people don't know this. Like, this has been the standard in warranties as far back as I can remember. But yet some people don't think about it until they need it, and then get upset when they find out that because they didn't purchase it from an authorized reseller, that they don't get the same guarantees. But it's something for you to do your research on, because there's no rule that says the manufacturers all have to follow this process. It's just that's what they do. If there's any manufacturers that say, hey, it's okay if you bought it used, please let us know who they are, because I'm not aware of any in the electronics industry or in the automobile industry outside of that bumper-to-bumper warranty. Any extended warranty is only to the original buyer. Even if you buy an extended warranty for your car, the extended warranty does not transfer to the next owner. So bear that in mind if you're thinking about buying an extended warranty for anything. All right. And as I mentioned, there could be some exceptions to that. And if there are, please let me know, because I'm not aware of any in any industry. Not that I can think of off the top of my head on a live video. We've got a metal plate right here. This is a big heat sink for the NVMe, for both NVMe drives. And it looks like they had space here for, well, right here for RAM. So you can see they're reusing the case for, potentially different equipped motherboards. Boards that had DDR4, that's socketable. or even DDR5, and this changing the internals out, that makes the computer cheaper. Since you're not having to redesign and refabricate a whole new case, if you can repurpose the same case by upgrading its insides, save you some money and give you better value for your dollar. So a lot of people can see stuff like this and see it negatively. I see stuff like this and show it to you positively. Is the glass half full? Is the glass half empty? Who's right and who's wrong? It's up to you to decide if you want a negative attitude or a positive attitude. That's on you. I'm just giving you something to think about, because you are making that choice whether you realize it or not. Just as I made a choice to open this up without realizing which way I took it out. So did it go in this way or did it go in this way? Well, I guess it would be easy to line that tape up. Clearly. I should have paid more attention, but I got lucky. I got lucky, that just worked out. Let me get back over to the chat just before I put the screws in to see if there's any other questions about the insides. Our friend Buster saying good night. He's got to catch up with the show tomorrow. Thank you, Buster. Good to see you, my friend. Have a good night's rest. Lorshak in the chat says Asus Europe gives a 3-year warranty with a 3-day courier exchange. Yes. When I talk about warranties, I'm talking about the United States. So thank you for reminding me that we have viewers all over the world. And depending on what region you live in, the laws may change or dictate different warranty periods. Mark Leibowitz wants to know who left the dirty glass in the sink. It's always somebody else, though, isn't it? All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the screws back in here. We'll put the rubber feet back on and we'll fire it up for the first time. We'll go through the out-of-box experience. We'll verify the 512 gig, the speed of it. We'll verify the CPU advertised as the one that's in there. We'll also verify the network card is a 2.5 gig. We've seen some typos before, so we want to verify all this. We'll look in the device manager, make sure all of our device drivers are loaded, along with what version of Windows 11. Is it 24H2? Is it 25H2? Is it Home? Is it Pro? We don't know. All of this information is typically left out on most manufacturers' websites. I don't know why. But that gives us a purpose to do this, right? Because the manufacturers are not volunteering it. The question is, are they hiding something? Or is it just a... It could be a situation where they don't want to have to change the website because certain product became unavailable and they had to swap that product out or shut the manufacturing line down and stop making that product. Obviously, a manufacturer does not want to shut the product line. They don't want to shut down their manufacturing facility simply because they can't get, you know, a certain piece of the machine they need. So they may leave that kind of open-ended. It's a 512 gig SSD, and they may not say specifically who makes it or what generation it is, or if it's NVMe or SATA, because that's subject to change based on the market, what they can get their hands on during manufacturing. And so it's possible you can order 3 of these over the, a period of time, and they all have differences in them, even though the description didn't change. That's ordinary manufacturing, man. Unless you make everything in-house. You know, back when Henry Ford made the Model T, he made every part of that car. He made the wheels, he made the chassis, he made every single part of that car in the factory or at neighboring factories initially. And then, Firestone or Goodyear would start providing tires, and slowly and surely over time, today's automotive manufacturers don't really make so much as they put everything together. You think the car seats that you sit in your car were made by the car maker? They were not. Car makers don't make car seats. Not anymore. All right, well, we know not to plug the Ethernet in, so I'm going to go ahead and take that sticker off. And then that's our Ethernet port. So don't connect it to Wi-Fi. I mean, you can if you want to. It just may take a while for... You know, if this is an older version of Windows, you might be sitting at Windows updates forever before you get a chance to even get to your desktop. So to avoid support calls, they're basically saying, look, wait till you get to the desktop and then go ahead and plug it into the internet at that point. So that's exactly what we're going to do, because that's good advice. See, I don't need this anymore. Let's move that over there. All right, so what do we need? I need a power cable. I need HDMI cable to connect the video output to our streaming computer. Let's plug that in. I need a keyboard and a mouse, which I brought out in anticipation. We can plug that into any USB port here. Front or back, doesn't matter. Let me make sure I turn these on. These are wireless. And I need power, so I've got a power cable here on the ground I use. It's just a longer power cable. It's more convenient for me. Nothing wrong with the one that's included. I just have a nice 10 or 12 foot one here that gives me a lot more slack in the cable, so I don't have to worry about this falling off the table from the cable pulling it off. And I think that's all we need. Keyboard, mouse, video, and power. That's it. Don't plug any flash drives or printers or accessories. When you get a brand new computer, I don't care if it's a laptop, a mini PC, if it's a desktop you built yourself or you bought from Dell, this is the process for your first boot up. Let's see if it turns on. Okay, we got a power light. We jump over here and let's see our video output coming from here onto your screen. Right now, you'll see the Elgato capture card. That's the brand of capture card I use in the streaming computer. And we're on port 3, which should hopefully give us a power on self-test. There it is. It doesn't say Kamrui, it just says AMI, the BIOS maker. Again, that saves companies money if they don't want to pay for the additional programming. That's to help save you money. If they save money, you save money. Luke Greenia says his wife is loving the Firebat laptop that I reviewed and Luke bought from us. He continues to let us know that it has been rock solid. It's a brand I'm not too familiar with, and I don't really have time to do long-term testing. So Luke did us two favors, one by repaying us for what we paid. We sold it at a discount, obviously, so that we could review it, because Firebat did not cooperate. They didn't even respond to us. So we went ahead and reviewed it anyway because it looked like a deal that was too good to be true. And I can't find anything wrong with it, but then how does it hold up over a long-term review? Well, that's where Luke steps in. And they're using it, his wife is using it every day. And reporting back so far, nothing but good news. So it may be a brand for you to consider. Remember, we're not a paid sponsorship here. So if I'm telling you about brands, it's no different than you hiring me to suggest a computer to you as a consultant, being paid for accountability and holding me legally liable if I give you bad consultancy advice. So just bear that in mind. There's not many YouTubers here that do this. Most of them are just entertainers. Now here we have our regular out-of-box experience for Windows. And let's go to, yeah, we want English in the US. English is a little different in Britain and other places. And United States is our region. And then our United States is our keyboard. We don't have a secondary language here, so we'll skip that. We're not going to connect to a network, so right down here it says I don't have internet. I love that that's already built into the installed operating system from Kamrui, because Microsoft doesn't put that in there anymore. We'll accept the license agreement. And now we're allowed to make an online account without having to, do any workarounds. So that's great that Kamrui's got that configured out of the box. Be customer focused instead of Microsoft focused. So I'll just put the name of user in there and a blank password. It never did ask us about our privacy settings, so I'm not a big fan that Kamrui has skipped that step. So I gave Kamrui a gold star for allowing a local account without us having to bypass it. And I'm taking away a gold star because they removed our privacy options. Now you can always go change those privacy options in the control panel after the fact, but it should be happening during the out-of-box experience by default. So not a fan of that. Now, as this processes our answers and configures Windows according to the country and language we're in, Kamrui makes these in Asia and they ship them all over the world, so it has to be customizable to your region.
In doing so, Microsoft then adapts Windows to the local laws like the GDPR laws in Europe or any European economic areas that are completely legal here in the United States. Same Windows, same manufacturer, just shipped to 2 different countries under 2 different sets of rules. And so based on those answers, Microsoft complies to the rules of where you live. If it didn't have to do that, if we all lived under the same rules, we could skip all those steps. That's why they're there. Trust me, Microsoft didn't want it there. You notice all of these shaded boxes? That's because we don't have an internet connection right now. Again, that's region-based. So when I plug the internet in, let me grab my cable, and I want you to watch the bottom right corner of the screen. You see that's a globe? When I plug this in, it should establish a connection with the router. So we'll watch the bottom right, and that should turn into like a monitor with a flashing cable. And in just a second, it'll go solid. And then these boxes should fill in automatically at that point. There we go. So we're online now. If I right-click on the Start menu and I go to System, we can take a look at the details of the Windows version we have. This is Windows 11 Pro. We are a full year behind. And coming up in about 2 months, we'll see 26H2. That's a little disappointing. However, you know, it says it was installed on today. That can't be right. And we're at 26.100.2314. If this was 25H2, this would be 26.200. And then whatever the latest Windows update is, this number, these 4-digit number, will just keep growing with every Windows update. We're in the 8,000s at this point, close to 9,000 on the latest. So we're several versions behind. We can verify it's a Ryzen 7 7735. It's 16 gigs. Again, you can't change that. But it is faster, slimmer, making the machine thinner, lighter, cheaper, more reliable. Who wouldn't want that, for crying out loud? All right, and then are we activated? We should be activated. Let's check. Activation. See if Windows is activated. Yep. We are activated, so we're good to go. Now, if you want to sit here and go through all those Windows updates, most people will. I'm not going to do that today. Instead, I want to take a look at the device manager and make sure all of our drivers are installed. Everything's perfect. I'm curious who makes the network adapters. So there's the Realtek wireless and the Realtek wired, and it is a 2.5 gig as advertised. Now, what I would like to do to this is what I recommend everybody who's comfortable doing this, just wipe the operating system. One of the things that I have trouble with is these international installs of Windows that customize based on region. They have some different screens. Sometimes I've seen where you get into like a certain settings screen and it shows up in a foreign language, often some form of Chinese, Cantonese, Mandarin, I don't know what it is, simplified. And it's like, wait a minute, this was in English 2 seconds ago. Imagine if I sold that to a customer that way and the customer calls me asking, what does this say? I don't know what the hell the customer's talking about. So before I sell anything to a customer, it always has to be consistently the same as every machine I've ever sold to any customer at any time, or I'm going to find myself in a world of pain when it comes to bizarre questions that don't make any sense. So it's easy to make a Windows 11 media installer, and I've got videos here demonstrating how to do that. Not only that, but the Windows 11 media installer, if you make it with the media creation tool, free and legal from Microsoft, will automatically carry over your license code. You don't have to ever know what your license code to Windows is. Once you've activated it once, you're done for the life of that motherboard. If you ever have to change the motherboard, you have to buy a new license code. If you buy a new car, you buy a new license for that car. If you want to move the license from one car to another, you pay extra for that. So just keep that in mind, the word license. Licensing is not ownership. You don't own music, you don't own movies. Any sort of media, you're licensing it. If you say, well, I have a DVD, yes, you own the physical DVD, but you've licensed the data on the DVD. That does not belong to you. It's a common consumer misconception. and any lawyer could easily explain it, or just go to your favorite AI chatbot if you want to learn more about the protection laws designed for copyright holders. Just because it's on a disc or a VHS tape doesn't mean you own anything but the disc or the VHS tape. What's on it is what you're licensing. Okay, so with the flash drive in hand, let's just plug this in and we'll boot to it. And then we'll find out if we can get the drivers the hard way. I could back these drivers up right now, but that would be cheating. Okay. I want to see if we can download all the drivers we need directly from Kamrui, or if anything's missing, or maybe all the drivers go in automatically from Windows Update. I don't know. This will also simultaneously upgrade us to Windows 11 25H2, as well as have all the latest updates right up until the last patch Tuesday, because they update it every month, so I update my installer every month, only using the media creation tool. But with that, let's jump back over here. And without taking this much further, as far as any configuration, I don't want to waste any time since I'm going to wipe it out. Let's do a restart. And when it restarts, I'll start pressing, usually it's delete to get into the BIOS. As soon as that word restarting goes away, right now, I start pressing repeatedly the delete key on the keyboard. That's almost always the way to get into a BIOS. Some manufacturers use escape or F2, but as you can see, delete worked on the Kamrui H1. And in here, if you want to, if you're curious about power settings, sometimes there are different power levels. You can go higher power consumption and more heat. I don't know that we have a power adjustment in this one. If I just quickly look, most of this I will just leave off. If you noticed, it said under USB SanDisk. Did you see that down here? That's the USB drive I just plugged in. It's my USB drive that has Windows on it. A little bit about the NVMe drive that's in there, etc. I don't see any power options, and I don't recommend, if there were any, that you change them. Sometimes, yeah, okay. Right here, there are power. It says power limit. You have a balance mode, silent mode, and a performance mode, and it's out of the box in performance mode. If you find that the fan's a little too loud for you, drop it into balance. If the fans are still too loud for you, put it into silent. In general, I usually select balance, but I'll leave it in performance mode because I haven't really heard any fans. So, that's the thing for me. Does it overheat or do the fans get loud? If so, that's where you adjust it. But from the factory, leaving it factory settings is absolutely the best recommendation I can give you. If you want to start messing with it, that's your problem. Okay, we'll still help you, but the first advice I'm going to give you is put it back the way it was before you monkeyed with it. If you monkey with it and it works fine, good for you. All right, I'm going to hit enter here, and that should boot. Instead of to the internal drive, I've instructed it to boot from the USB flash drive, and that should start our Windows 11 setup. So we're going to do a full wipe and reinstall on this, unscripted, unrehearsed. It should be relatively simple. Famous last words. All right, select the language, English, perfect. Keyboard input, US. Install Windows 11, I agree. Everything's going to be deleted, yes. Give that just a minute. There's your license terms. You have to accept that. You don't have a choice. Unless you don't want to install Windows 11, you could put Linux on it if you want to. And then all these partitions on disk 0, we need to erase every one of those. So one by one, select every disk 0. Think of a restroom that has separate partitions so everybody has privacy. This disk 0 is a room, and these partitions are literally partitions. We want to remove the partitions to put it into one big room again. So by deleting all the partitions, we're left with one giant space called disk 0, completely unallocated, and it shows the total of 500 gigs, 512, whatever it is, it's rounded. Now let's go ahead and hit next. And it says it's ready to install. And you notice it didn't ask us if it wanted Windows 11 Home or Pro. It already selected Pro for us because the key for Windows, the activation key, is embedded into the BIOS. which the Windows setup already found for us. That's another reason why you'll never have to enter the key on Windows 11. It's done at the factory. If you build a computer yourself and you buy a license key from wherever, like VIP-URCDKEYs, once it activates that board, it is forever tied to that board for the life of the motherboard. If you ever have to replace the board, you need to replace the license key. With that running, let me get back over to camera 1 and I'll put myself in a corner so we can keep an eye on it together. And this is much, much faster and than doing Windows updates to get it caught up. But doing Windows updates is easy. You just hit the check for updates button and go out to dinner. And you come home, it might be done. Doing it this way, we're ensuring we don't have any bloatware, we don't have any malware, we don't have any foreign languages and submenus that might appear. We're putting it back to stock standard for me. Since I'm the one that has to support it, I need it to be the way I need it to be in order for me to be able to support it the way I need to support it. Being, I need to be quick, I need to know what the customer's talking about. If I don't, everything I don't know makes support more painful for me and the customer. So the amount of time this takes me is not only faster, but it reassures me that I've done everything to my standard. And that means a clean, updated install of Windows 11 to make sure everything's, activated like it's supposed to be. I'll still double check it. Make sure all the drivers are installed and they're current drivers. I don't know if the drivers in here are out of date or not. So this ensures everything is always done the same as if I built it myself. So when a customer buys from me, they know exactly what to expect every single time. And that's the way my business has been, because without it being that way, I wouldn't be in business anymore. Whether or not it was because I was working too hard and not making enough money for the time, or customers were frustrated that there was no consistency and took their business elsewhere. The gradient said, if it's me, I'm backing up those drivers. Well, and easy enough. If you want to back up the drivers, a Windows command is all you need to do that. But again, if those drivers are old, you're just putting old drivers back on. Is it better to have old drivers versus no driver for a device? It's not a discussion I'm willing to entertain. It's sort of like you do it or you don't do it. It's sort of like being kind of pregnant. In my line of work, I not only have to have the drivers, I need to have the latest ones. So whether or not you're checking every driver manually by hand from the installed from manufacturer image, or you're downloading the drivers manually, pick your poison. I would hate to go through all this effort just to put old drivers back on it because I was lazy. But that's me. Like, I think, what's the point? It'd be like, jumping out of the shower and immediately going and playing in the mud. Why did, maybe play in the mud first? Or don't. It's your choice. Mark Gaines joins us and says hello. Welcome in, Mark. There's Slavko joining us. Bikeman says he's back from dinner. Right on. Good to see you, my friend. There's Bajin Guy saying hello. Looking if there's any other questions about this PC or other PCs in general. I'm happy to do what I can to provide answers to you. If you believe the market, certain industry folks are saying that the prices you're paying for RAM and storage today are a bargain compared to what they're going to be this time next year. And I hope they're all wrong. But if they're right, you might, if you've got an upgrade that you want to take care of and you think you're going to wait a year, you might not be able to afford it next year. If you thought it was expensive now, and if these industry experts are right, if they're wrong, the prices are still not going to come down to where they were. Not only because inflation has changed a lot since then, but there's going to be sort of a catching up that needs to be done from a lot of consumers that'll start buying at the cheaper price, which will still be much, much higher than it ever was. It'll never go back to the price it was unless it's obsolete. Like when DDR7 comes out, DDR5, you probably won't be able to give it away. But the idea of buying a current model of memory in a current capacity at a better price than you paid 2 years ago is like, trying to find a better car today than what you paid a couple of years ago. Prices only go up because the value of the dollar keeps going down. So don't expect that to ever return. However, it doesn't mean the prices won't go down and that these industry experts are completely wrong. But it'll take a couple of years for the prices to finally hit their bottom. And their bottom is higher than what the bottom used to be because of inflation. That's all I'm trying to say. And if the experts are right, expect this computer to be $100 to $200 more next year, or the equivalent to it. I don't know what's going on. I don't have any control over it, but I want you to understand these are the possibilities. So even if the experts are right or the experts are wrong, it's still going to be expensive, and this is still probably going to be a pretty good deal. Because if the price goes down, it probably won't go down by more than $50. Not by next year anyway. Give it a couple of years. But then you wouldn't want this in a couple of years. You'd want something newer. All right, let's go through our final setup here. Let me go back full screen. And yeah, US is our region. And oh, I've got the internet plugged in. I should have unplugged it. I'm going to do that now. Keyboard is US, secondary keyboard skip. So you connected to a network. I'm going to say I don't have internet. I'll put in the name user. This is why I don't plug it into the internet, or it would really want me to create a Microsoft account, which I don't want to do because it's not my computer. This will be sold to somebody, and I don't need my logins on it. I turn off everything but location settings. That'll keep our date and time up to date, including any daylight saving time adjustments that happen for most of people around the world twice a year. Mara says we've got an email, and Mark Gaines says he wants me to check my email. Could that be the same one?
Yeah.
Thank you. There he is. Mark Gaines sends an Amazon gift card. Says, I hope you enjoyed this gift card. It's taken as my late fee for tonight's show. I was dismantling a shed I got for free. Right on. Thank you, Mark, for the Amazon gift card, and thanks for joining us. Always good to see you, my friend, out there in Northern Ireland. Now we go through the same out-of-box experience setup, right, where it's adjusting based on the answers, but also the region of Windows I installed was a US version of Windows, so I don't have to pick my country and stuff like that. And in just a moment, we should get to the desktop. And then we only need the updates that came out since last Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month. So there'll always be updates, right? But ideally, this will be maybe a preview update for next month, if we turn that on. And let's see here. Just about done. And, it kind of looks the same, doesn't it? And you'll notice those gray boxes. That's because if you look in the bottom right corner, we are not plugged in to the internet. So let me plug it into the internet, and we should see those gray boxes become icons based on the IP address that we have being assigning to the laws of the country that IP address is in. So in just a moment, that will probably fill in. Also, if I go full screen here, because I can barely see this, let me jump full screen. So it does say we're connected, and it's taken a little time here to fill in everything. Unusual for that to not be filled in. It's usually pretty quick. I'm not worried about it. If we right-click on the Start menu and go to System, you'll see now that we have Windows 11 Pro 25H2 instead of 24H2, and our OS build is 26200 instead of 26100. And we're at build 8873. If we look in the device manager, how many device drivers are missing? Let's take a look. I mean, clearly our network driver is working. So just 4 items are missing. One of those things, because it's an AMD system, we're going to want the AMD Adrenalin software. So what I would do, first thing I would do, oh look, and see all those did fill in now. I would go to Settings, and I would go to Windows Update. And not only are we going to get the latest Windows updates, I also want the preview updates. I also want updates for other Microsoft products, and I also want to be kept up to date. Because, you know, I don't like to get hacked. I'm kind of funny that way. As for optional updates, it says there's 4 optional updates. There goes a video driver. As you can see, the resolution just changed. The screen blacked out. The old driver's been unloaded, and the new driver, as soon as it activates, it will come back with video again, and it looks like it returned our resolution. There's our preview update for next month. I want that. And then look, there's drivers for some of the devices. So what I'm curious about is when we get these updates from Microsoft, will there be any device drivers needed? Once this is done, there's one way to find out. That's what we're going to do right now. And I like to adjust the power settings so the computer doesn't go to sleep on us while we're live. I type in the word edit, and you'll see the suggestion for edit power plan come up. And see how it wants to put the screen to sleep after 5 minutes? That drives us crazy during a live video. And I never want to put a computer that doesn't have batteries in any form of hibernation or sleep, because that's a battery saving feature. So without batteries, it doesn't make any sense. And then over here, change what the power buttons do. I like the power button to shut down the computer. And computers these days don't have a sleep button. They used to. So this does nothing, but I'm going to just tell it to do nothing anyway because it makes my OCD happy. It actually doesn't change anything. It's just psychological. But with that, this is a pretty big update, this preview update. And we don't have to download it. I just want to. This is a preview of what's coming out the second Tuesday of August. I'd like it early. And it's going to change. You'll notice right here it says 26200.8973. Whenever you see this appear after an update, it's telling you it's updating your Windows version. So if we go back to System, just for comparison, so you guys understand how this works, we're at 26200.8873, and this Windows update is going to take us to, where did it go? 8873. Go back to Windows Update. And that's going to take us to 8973. Every time there's a big Windows update, it will change the version of Windows you have. The security updates don't do that. Only major feature updates. When we talk about support ending for Windows 10, for example, you'll never get another update to Windows. Windows 10 will never get any new features or any enhancements. So if you're running Windows 10 and you've got extended security updates, you're only getting security updates. The operating system will no longer be enhanced or evolve. No new features will be added. You're sort of frozen in time until you decide to upgrade. And being stubborn is just hurting yourself, because the amount of vulnerabilities in Windows 10 is about 10 times worse than Windows 11. In fact, if you're curious about it, let's just try something here. Let's open up Explorer, because I don't want you to take my word for everything. I want you to do your own research and verify that these people that write articles for like PC World magazine, or they have a YouTube channel, that doesn't mean they have any clue what they're talking about, including myself. No man is an island. I don't know everything about everything. But what I can tell you is that if we go to Google, oh, this resolution is just too tiny. Let's change that. Click. Let's go to display settings. Let's drop this to 1080, because my old eyes can't stand it. 1920 by 1080 is what I want. There we go. There we go. And then back over to Windows Update, we can check our progress. That's going to take a little while. So Yeah. This update fixes this, supposedly, this issue of these downloads taking forever. We'll see. That's what they claim. Let's type into Google how many security vulnerabilities, and don't worry about spelling it correctly, between Windows 10 and 11. They're not the same. Windows 10 devices average 1,903 active vulnerabilities currently, right now. Windows 11 has 602 active vulnerabilities. Well, that's some people who don't know any better say, that's why I use Apple. How many vulnerabilities did Apple fix last update? In Apple's July update, that's this month of 2026, the company fixed 194 unique security vulnerabilities. Here's the thing. That doesn't mean they fixed all of them. This is how many they fixed. How many vulnerabilities did Linux? You're going to find a pattern here. It's over about what's more popular, right? There's always going to be vulnerabilities if you're connecting online, whether it's a phone or a computer, a tablet, what have you. Even your car, if it connects online. Getting these updates is there to protect you. They're not there to hurt you. Anybody that tells you you should be postponing or pausing updates, they might as well tell you that that I'm 10 feet tall and I weigh 4,000 pounds. I mean, if you're going to believe that, be careful who you take your advice from, because you're the identity that'll be stolen. They won't pay any price for it. You will. So make your decision and accept your accountability for the decision you make, and we'll all be happy. Well, we wait for the update to install. Do you have any questions I can answer for you? In the meantime, I'm going to take out my Windows 11 install USB, and I will install my my utility CD, and I'll start copying like Crystal Disk Info, Crystal Disk Marks, Cinebench, etc. And while I do that, if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask me, since we're waiting for this Windows update. And then, of course, when the updates are done, we'll reboot. We'll go back to the device manager. Now, regardless, I still will download the AMD Adrenalin, as should anybody running an AMD computer, whether it's a laptop, a desktop, a mini PC, because that's going to unlock features, benefits, performance, security, and reliability, and it's all free, but only if you know enough to do it. If you don't do it, it won't get done. It's possible you have auto updates working, but then how would you know if you didn't check? So you could operate on faith, which is great as long as customers aren't paying you for that. Usually faith costs money. Last I checked, there's usually a collection plate for faith. But not that you're obligated to put money into it. When it comes to your own security, it's free. And it doesn't require faith, it requires evidence. If you don't want to look, well, keep your eyes closed. We're back to the old Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you're somebody that believes if you don't look at it, you'll be fine, you should really read this book, because it's very British dry humor about turning your head away to avoid any dangerous action. Basically, don't panic is the slogan to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I believe it includes a pair of glasses that turn black, so you can't see anything that's dangerous. So if somebody were to attack you with a knife, the glasses would go black so you don't see it. That way you wouldn't panic. You'll probably get stabbed, but you won't freak out about it until after it happens. That to me is hilarious. But to some people, that's sincerely the way of dealing with it. And they don't necessarily see it that way. No pun intended. That's why it's so funny to me. WVCC says, hello everyone, been a long time. Well, right on, thanks for coming back. Lou Greenia said, I want the original drivers just in case I don't get the latest ones. I'm just not good at locating drivers on the web. It's just a me thing. Well, you can always ask us for help. We'll point you to the drivers. Have you ever seen me not find a driver? I sometimes struggle, but I always find the driver. Carey always gets his driver. You know, we could check, by the way, because manufacturers should not make this a treasure hunt. It should be right there on the KAMRUI website. So let's go look while we're waiting. Let me go back to full screen over here. And let's go to a browser. And let's type in Kamrui H1 driver download and see where it takes us. KAMRUI official page. Mini PC drivers and download center. Very first link. Okay, we've got an H1. Let's look through H1. Remember, there's different versions of the H1, so this should be interesting. Oh, it just takes us to a download for a PM680. Okay, I think the 680 is the graphics card, isn't it? 649 megs. So what this means is that all the versions of H1 may be using the same motherboard, and they're just changing the CPU out, but having the same chipset. If that's true, then this makes sense why they don't give us different options for which version of the H1. If it's not true, then this won't have all the drivers we need. We open this up and explore it. Let's see what's in here. We'll extract it. I mean, according to KAMRUI, this is everything you need. So you don't have to go looking. These still could be out of date, but they will be the right drivers, just maybe not the latest ones. That's why always getting them yourself is better. I love that there's a single installer here. And this contains everything. Look at that. That's awesome. If this is what they say it is, it's perfect. Like there's a MediaTek driver. That tells me that this is kind of a one-size-fits-all, because this is a Bluetooth driver, a wireless driver. This is also a wireless driver. You're only going to have one or the other. So I don't know if it just throws them all in blindly. That's a downside for me because I don't want to install drivers I don't need. You could say they don't hurt anything, but then why are they taking up? I don't care how small they are. Why are we putting them in? Well, this makes support easier if you can just copy and paste an answer to your customer. So again, still better for you to go and get the drivers manually. That way you're not getting unnecessary drivers that may be taking up resources regardless of how little they don't need to be there. And you're also getting the latest drivers, which in these packages, they don't get updated very often. They may be out of date. They still work, but they don't work as well as the latest. All of these reasons are my opinion on why you should be downloading your own drivers, and only from the manufacturers. In other words, KAMRUI makes the mini PC, but they don't make the network card. They don't make the wireless card. They don't make the CPU. They don't make the chipset. They don't make the GPU. So we're going to download the AMD drivers from AMD. We're going to download the Realtek drivers from Realtek. We will download the Intel drivers from Intel. MediaTek is the only company we cannot download drivers from. Just FYI. And I hope that'll change in the near future and they'll get on board with doing what everybody else is doing. '67 Jeff joins us. Welcome in, Jeff. WVCC says, this is David Ice. I don't know why it's showing his name. What you will do when you're logged in here into the chat room, if you look in the top right, you're going to have an icon that'll have like a letter, like a big letter D or something, or it may have your picture, whatever you put up there when you set this up, and you just don't remember doing it. And what you need to do is just click on that round circle up there in the top right. That's your account. And then under your account, you click on, what's that under? Settings or something like that. And you set your name. We've been through this. We've shown this in other videos. And of course, you can always hit Google and ask, how do I change my, the name that appears in. In fact, I could do it for you. In fact, we're waiting anyway. It's something to do. Let me come back over here. And I don't remember it's been a few months since we talked about this. And once you set it, you shouldn't have to worry about it. But I think YouTube made a change a while back and you're just not aware of it. But if we say, let's go to Google, it's my preference. Why is my YouTube chat name different? And how do I change it? YouTube chat name looks different because YouTube updated live chats to display your unique @ handle instead of your regular channel. To update your handle or your display name, there's a YouTube video that's pretty recent, that's just 9 months ago, that walks you through it, or these are the steps. You go to YouTube Studio, click on or tap on customization from the menu, go to your basic info or profile tab, look for the name or handle field and type in what you want it to say. Then click publish or save, depending on which screen you're on, and you're all done. It's that simple. Until YouTube changes it again. Don't get too comfortable, because as soon as you figure it out, they're going to change it again. William Bird said, Infocom at a Hitchhiker's game. I got it when I got my first PC. My wife took it and my PC, and I didn't see either one of those for a month. Many of you mentioned having the Don't Panic button or sticker that came with some of the books. Or did it come with the game? Wow, this update's taken a while. Oh, I was going to copy over my utilities and I forgot to do that. So there's something else we can do while we're waiting. Come back over here to the full screen projector. Whoops, wrong camera. I'm now looking at myself full screen. You guys didn't see, I saw it. Hold on a minute. Let's go over here and that out of the way. Let's go to drive D. So, you know, I like to put VLC on here. And for PC testing software, we'll grab the temperature monitor. We'll grab crystal disk info, crystal disk mark, Cinebench. And of course, I need the amazing and wonderful Uncle Carey's Windows 11 Optimizer tool, which sets so many features for me. And one of the things I've got Nick, the person that makes this over at D7X Tech, our developer, working on adding the feature to disable the secondary out-of-box experience screen. We can do that by hand right now by going to Advanced Options. No, I'm sorry. You go to System, go to Notifications, scroll all the way down where it says Additional Settings. Uncheck these. That's it. And you won't get that screen that sometimes happens every couple of months or after a big update that says, let's finish setting up your PC. When you're done seeing that, that's how you turn it off forever. Unless an update comes back that turns it back on, but if that ever happens, I'll let you know. Hey, David Ice WV has changed his name correctly in the chat. Right on. So we're about 15 minutes away from a 2-hour show here. I don't know that I'll have time to run the Cinebench results. In fact, I know I won't, because if I want to try Cinebench in all 3 power modes, it'll take about a half an hour, thereabouts, to go into the BIOS, make the change, save the BIOS, reboot, run Cinebench, multi-core, that's a 10-minute test, single core, that's a 10-minute test, save the screen results for temps and scores, repeat this process a total of 2 more times, for a total of 3 times. So we're looking at about 90 minutes of testing. But I will save the results, and I'm more than happy to share the results with you in a future broadcast if you ask. I'll present them because they're just screenshots. But what we can do is we can do the crystal disk mark. I don't expect, much because it's Gen 3 storage. So, getting in the 3,000 megabits per second range is what I expect. Not a big deal. Nothing to turn your nose up at. Most people can't tell the difference anyway. So, I think it's so far, it appears to be a really good value for the dollar, given the current situation of what things are costing for RAM and storage. I mean, price it out yourself. Tell me what numbers you get to. Just getting 16 gigs of DDR5. Is it DDR5? Or is it DDR4? Can't remember what it said. Because there's a price difference. Yeah, it's DDR5 in this unit. Never mind the cost of the CPU, the cooler, the motherboard, the case, the Wi-Fi, the operating system. Never mind all that. Just buying that storage, and let's say you could get DDR5, but it wasn't low power, just regular DDR5, 16 gigs, and the cheapest 512 gig NVMe Gen 3 drive you can buy. It's got to be half the price of this computer. Am I wrong? Brush that. Pause that. Bring up this screen. Okay, now I can see you guys again. John Williams says, thanks for the live stream. Have a nice weekend. As well as CyberGeek Mini PC that he's got over there is still working great. Perfect. Bill Holmes said he just changed his name. You did. Good job, Bill. I guess we need to revisit that from time to time. Some people weren't here when that change took effect, and I've kind of moved on. So glad we could help you out. David Graves says, it seems like weeks go by in days. It does seem that way, doesn't it? But my clocks are all accurate, and still measuring 60 seconds is still taking 60 seconds. I don't know why it feels less, but I've checked it. I'm like, something's happening here. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, you can verify time is still running the exact same speed as it ran years ago. But somehow, as we get older, for most of us, boy, it sure does speed by, doesn't it? I have an Oral-B electric toothbrush. And Oral-B will say, when you're done with your toothbrush, put it back on the charger. And I go, no, I don't want that near my sink. I unplug the charger and I put it under the sink. And every Sunday, without fail, that Oral-B toothbrush, when I use it on Sunday, I get a red flashing light that says it's time to charge. So when I'm done, and I wake up and I'm in the shower and, getting ready for my day, I see that flashing red light. I take out the charger, I plug it in, I put the Oral-B toothbrush on it, and it takes all night. When I wake up the next morning to start my regular morning routine, it's fully charged. I unplug the charger, I put it back under the sink, and before you know it, that light is flashing red again because it somehow got to be Sunday. How did that happen? I feel like, didn't I just charge this yesterday? Oh, wait a minute, that was Sunday. What's today? Sunday? How did that happen? I don't know. Would it be better if life went really slow, like you were in a prison and you were just like chalking off the days on the wall? I guess my theory is if time seems to be moving quickly, I think you're having a good life. Because I don't think time moves quickly if you're miserable. That's just a theory I have, though. Andy says 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM is about $200. Okay, thank you, Andy. And about how much money would a 512 gig NVMe storage drive cost? Gen 3. What price? $50? If this is $429 and you subtract just the RAM and SSD, what's left that you're paying for? You see where the value is now, just in case you weren't seeing it before. Bill Holmes says it takes me about 12 hours to get 6.5 hours of work done these days. Well, that's faster than me. I'm just trying to get a Windows update installed. Look how long this is taking. But, you know, one of the things that Microsoft is addressing here is the Windows Update service and how accurate it's been. Inaccurate. There's two pieces of the Windows Update service. One's called the Arbiter, and the other one's called, is it the Balancer? Hold on, let me use Google. Jump back over here full screen. And this is Windows Update. We just do a search on this number right here. KB510. If I can actually highlight that, that would be good. We'll right click and it's not gonna. One more try and then I'll just type it in if I have to. Okay, 3 more try. Never mind. All right, so we're gonna go to Google. Sometimes it's just easier to do it by hand. And we're looking at KB50 something. Oh, I gotta do this. Go over here. KB50. Oh, 510-1684. 510-1684. And I even mistyped it. KB. I don't need the apostrophe. All right. Whew. Here we go. 42 changes in this update. Get into what it does. Improve File Explorer navigation. All of these updates that we talk about, if you run a version of Windows because you think you're smarter than everybody else, and so you're running like LTSC, you're way behind the rest of us. You won't get these updates. If you're running Windows 10, you won't get any of these updates. All you're going to get are security updates. That's it. And if you think that's smarter than everybody, I mean, have fun. Because we're all getting all these new features and all these performance enhancements, and you won't be getting them. That's your choice. I'm not telling you what to do, but I don't think you're outsmarting anybody. I feel bad for you. But that's how I feel, and you feel differently, we'll agree to disagree. But when we look at the Windows Update, it improves the calculation of the update process, includes changes to the cleanup logic. I'd like more information. I mean, this is a lot of text documentation of this one free update that so many people online will tell you not to do. I would avoid those people the same way I would avoid a pandemic, because to me, that's toxic information that's designed to hurt you, in my opinion. Let's see, Windows Update Arbiter Fix. Let's see what it says. Microsoft recently rolled out updates to improve update performance after a widespread outage. Oh, the orchestrator. That's the other one. I could never think of this. So the orchestrator is the background update management, and the arbiter, that's the metadata evaluation and installation control components. All you need to know about it is their goal here is to, Microsoft's goal is to make this process more efficient and to make the progress meter and everything on your screen more accurate. This has been sort of set aside as a lower priority item, but now that Microsoft's really focusing on customer satisfaction for the first time in a long time, they've raised it up on their priority list as a higher priority item. So what happened was on July 23rd, just last week, a lot of users like Microsoft 365 apps like Teams and SharePoint, they had a widespread outage which blocked the installation of Windows 11 updates, and this delay was all the more frustrating when Microsoft is telling people how important it is to get your updates as soon as possible. How maddening is that? So that's what sort of moved this up to a higher priority. According to NeoWin, Microsoft will be making changes to the orchestrator and arbiter, and they are explained as the orchestrator is the background component that manages the entire update process. The orchestrator schedules update scans, checks administrator policies, starts downloads, initiates the installation, and performs restarts when necessary based on your Windows setting. So what we're looking at is an early review of this update. Well, it's an early look at this update scheduled to come out on the second Tuesday of next month, which is an optional update. That's why I wanted it. I had to select it to get it. And because I did that, that's why we're sitting here waiting for this download to finish. But we don't absolutely have this. But when this comes out officially on the second Tuesday of next month, assuming they don't have any issues with the previewers like myself that are getting it early, which they normally don't, then what I'll do is I'll update my Windows 11 media installer that following Thursday, and it'll already have this baked into it. And I hope that means these long download sessions will be over if it's going to do what Microsoft claims. And we'll test that next month. We'll try it and see if it works. Even though these are fairly large updates, taking this long to download is unacceptable. And I find it to be inconsistent because I can be on one computer and it downloads really fast, and be on another computer and it takes hours for the exact same thing on a computer that they're equipped exactly the same on the same internet connection. So it's clearly an issue Microsoft has in the communication, and how that's being defined from one computer to a next is well beyond my pay scale. But it's nice to see it's finally acknowledged and addressed, and let's hope this actually fixes it. Or if everything stays the same, time will tell. David Graham says you're really going to want 26H2. Well, I mean, I wanted 25H2 and I wanted 24H2. Of course I'm going to want 26H2. What they're doing now is they're including, just like last year with 25H2, all of the 26H2 updates. You're getting them now. You just don't know that. You're just not getting them all at once. You're getting a little bit now. You're getting a little bit next month. So what ends up happening is something called a Microsoft enablement package. And what that means is, instead of waiting for, a 6 gig download to then reinstall Windows like a service pack, you're getting a little teeny tiny download that immediately, almost instantaneously, switches you from 25H2 to 26H2. Now you can't skip. You can't go from 24 to 26. You'd have to download the big 6 gig download. That's going to take a while. But as long as you stay on top of your Windows updates, you're already getting components of 26H2. They just haven't been enabled yet. And in fact, if we want to explore that a little bit more and how that works, I think it's awesome. I love it. You might hate it, but this is what they did with 25H2, and that's why some installs took 5 minutes and some installs took an hour and a half. Let's go to Google. And let's just ask, how will Microsoft distribute Windows 11 26H2? It's a little teeny tiny enablement package. Devices already running Windows 11, 24H2 or 25H2, I stand corrected, will receive 26H2 as a fast, low disruption update. It's going to act like a monthly cumulative update. Because versions 24H2 and 25H2 and 26H2 share the same core servicing branch and source code, the package is simply toggling dormant features on. So you already have many of the features. You will continue to receive more features, and then finally you'll get this enablement package that will then turn those features on, but you don't know you've got them right now. The installation requires only a single fast restart with minimal downtime, so it's not one of those rebooting 3 times kind of a situation. Preview versions are actively rolling out now in beta. The general public release is scheduled for the fall. So we'll probably see it in October or November. That's traditional. Devices running any hardware restricted versions of 26H1 found on the ARM processors. If you have a Qualcomm ARM-based Windows laptop, won't follow this upgrade path. This is for Intel and AMD users only. So that's what's coming, and it'll be no big deal. Totally no event. Mark my words. It's going to be one of the easiest conversions ever. Just as 24H2 was super easy to convert to 25H2, as long as you got your monthly updates. It was one of the smallest updates ever released. Like, it just installs, reboots, you're done. It's that quick. And I love to see this. They're going to continue that in this update. Now, if you're not keeping up to date, you'll have to catch up. But yeah, anytime there's any Windows update, I strongly recommend you grab it, regardless of what people say. People could say they hate it. People could say they love it. I don't give a rat's behind. What do they say in England? I don't give a monkey's what people on the internet think. I care about whether or not I can stay in business. I care about if my customers have to call me with problems that could have been avoided. What people don't know is the far most dangerous advice people can give you. And they don't accept any accountability. If the dangerous information they give you, you believe it, and you put that into, you deploy it, make it active on your machine, then it becomes what the expression is called, the blind following the blind. It's your choice. It's not illegal. You're allowed to. But why would you do that to yourself? If there are trusted resources, people you admire and respect, and they're telling you not to do this update for some reason, and you choose to believe them, that's on you. That's not on them. I don't care what update it is. If it's from Microsoft and it's an official update, I'm going to always tell you the same thing. You should grab that update as soon as possible. And anybody telling you otherwise is your enemy. They're trying to cause you harm. I'm just telling you. They're just like scammers. If you download that update, it's going to cause you harm. If you listen to them, that's going to cause you harm. I'm telling you. And unlike those people, if you have a problem and you follow my advice and it doesn't work out the way that I told you it would, you know who I am and you know how to reach me for help. Good luck getting that from anybody else on the internet. They're real quick to tell you what to do and then tell you it's your problem. If you ask them for any help, you likely won't get a response, or they'll tell you some excuse why it's your fault, and they're not wrong. So I want you to keep that in mind. Now, if somebody online says, if you listen to me for free and I'm not going to charge you, and you do what I say, and you follow my advice, and it doesn't turn out to be helpful or makes things worse, I will help you for free to make it right. Please give me that person's name, because I want to follow them online. As far as I know, I'm the only person on YouTube. I'm the only person on Twitter. I am the only person on social media that stands behind the technical advice I give and inviting people that I will fix it for free, unless you have a hardware problem, obviously. If you're downloading an update and then you had a brownout and a power thing crashed your computer, it's an act of nature. But if the direct result of following my advice resulted in some negative side to your computer, send me an email. I'll make it right, and I won't charge you for it. Now, does that mean my advice should be followed versus some rando on Reddit? Well, you decide. I know which one I would pick if I were you. And I think you should consider anybody who's offering any information, what they're willing to do to make it right. If by following what they suggest so vehemently that they're just like, you really need to do this, and you say, okay, but if I do that and there's something negative as a result, are you going to personally make it right? I will tell you, with the exception of me, as far as I know, they're going to tell you you're crazy if you think they're going to help you for free. But yet, if you didn't listen to them, you would have never needed their help. That's how the internet works. And as soon as you get on board with that and you start double checking before you proceed with whatever it is you're going to do, you're either taking responsibility for what your actions are and holding yourself to blame, or you listen to somebody who says, if I'm wrong, I got your back. That's it. That's it. There's no money changing hands. Nobody owes anybody anything. You can't sue over anything because you did it voluntarily. That's why, as far as I know, I'm the only person that's crazy enough and bold enough to say, I know what I know, and I know it's factual, and if I'm wrong, I will fix it for you. Who else does that? And if you know of anybody online that does that, please share their name with me, because I think that's awesome. The Muffin Man says, Carey, love your videos, finally catching a live stream. What advice would you give an enthusiast just starting out with computer games? I'm not the right guy to ask for that. You know, you might check other channels like Jay's 2 Cents does a lot of gaming stuff. And he would probably be a better resource for that information. When you want to use your computer to make money instead of spending money, I'm your guy. When you want to spend money, plenty of YouTube enthusiasts will tell you how to spend money. And I'm not saying they're better than me or worse than me, or, you know, I'm better than them. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's not my wheelhouse. It's not what I do, and I don't claim to do it. So therefore, I would not be the right person to ask. I do appreciate the question, and please, if you have other questions, feel free to ask. I enjoy, you know, interacting with everybody, but I don't have all the answers. But what I do know, what I do for a living, I've been doing it for over 35 years, so I'm pretty confident in my skills. Because otherwise, I wouldn't be in the business. I'd be out of business by now. So time is the sayer of all truths. David Graham wants to know how many lanes do you have with Oculink, 8 or 16? To get 16 lanes, you'd have to install the card internally to the machine if the machine supports 16 lanes. The Oculink port, I'll double check it, but I believe you just get 8. And in some cases, 4. It depends on the graphics card and the eGPU dock, and then how, well, obviously you're connecting with Oculink. So Oculink, I was thinking, you know, you could connect it with USB, but never mind, because you specified Oculink. Oculink should be 8. Let's double check. Let's fact check here. Google. How many lanes? Oculink. Here's a 2x8 Oculink setup. How does that work? Oculink connections on many PCs and Thunderbolt use 4 lanes. It is 8 lanes with 2 cables. Hold on a minute. What is this person talking about? Let's go up here. It's normally 4 lanes. You're looking at PCI by 4 if you're using Gen 4. You can get to 8 lanes with a higher density server standard. It doubles the capacity at 8, but that would be using bifurcation, where you're using 2 dual 4 links, by 4 links. I've never seen that before. Oculink. So whether or not you're going 4 lanes of PCI 3 or 4 lanes of PCI 4 makes a big difference. Because you're looking at 8 gigatransfers a second or 3.9 gigs, which is your maximum Gen 3 speed. and you double that with Gen 4 speed, and you double it again with Gen 5 speed. But the number of lanes doesn't change. Here's a breakout cable. Woo, look at that bad boy. I don't know. You're going to be pretty much on home consumer equipment, mini PCs, you're going to be looking at the same number of lanes you have on an M.2 slot, basically. And that's why some mini PCs, they come with an adapter, and you plug it into your secondary M.2 slot to turn it into an Oculink port. If you need more than that, you want to put the card in internally. The Muffin Man says, I want to grow my skill set further, but lacking the years of experience that you have as a professional. Well, because I don't wake up and decide I want to expand my skill set today. Not normally. Normally, a customer reaches out for support, and I have to resolve whatever the problem is, and that enhances my skill set because that's what I have to do. It just so happens I want to do, I want to enhance my skill set, but I don't intentionally oftentimes create my own little projects. The projects come to me. I don't pay for projects. I get paid for projects. So the skill sets I get are the skill sets I need. Whether or not they're the skill sets I want is irrelevant. If a customer has a problem with a piece of hardware I'm not familiar with, my choice is to say no and lose the work, or to figure it out and get paid. That's it. I didn't wake up one day and decide this is what I want to learn. That does happen though. Sometimes I want to have my own little projects, but it's pretty rare because that means I'm not fixing anything, and that means I'm not getting paid. But if it's an important project, if it's a networking issue or a wireless issue, and it's affecting my business, then I'm losing money if I don't fix it myself. So in general, the skills I've got are the skills that were required for me to stay in business. And if I lived somewhere else and I had different customers, I would learn different skills as a result of the differences of those customers' needs versus these customers' needs. That's all. I don't decide what the skills are that I need. The business decides it. And my only decision is to accept the work or not accept the work. If you've seen somebody very, very good at playing a musical instrument, they have been practicing and rehearsing the exact same thing thousands and thousands of times. If you ever watch the Rolling Stones or a band that has a popular song and that band is still playing that same song 20 years later, can you even imagine how many times that band has played that song in rehearsal, or even in the development initially when they were creating the song, how long they worked on it for the instruments and the vocals to get it recorded in the studio, and then every single time when they're on tour, and they're going to tour 160 different stadiums in a year and several continents, playing the exact same songs every 3 days for years, the same guitar, the same drums, the same piano, the same vocals, over and over and over and over. That is a true enthusiast. Not somebody who says, oh, I really want to learn how to play Stairway to Heaven, and you work on it for 6 months and you finally nail it, and then you don't play it again ever. And maybe you pick up the guitar 3 years later and you're like, oh, I wonder if I remember how to play Stairway to Heaven, and you're rusty, you're not as good. But if you're in the band and you want to make money, you're going to play it whether you like it or not. And that's going to make you very, very good at it. And you'll say, wow, I wish I could play guitar as good as you. Well, just do the work I did. That's it. It's very easy. No, I want to do that without doing the work. Well, so do I. Last I checked, there's no other way. You need like a Vulcan mind meld and just transfer the experience to other people. Wouldn't that be great? Imagine if every time I got a new dog, I didn't have to start from scratch with potty training and sit and lay down and give me your paw. If I could just take the data from the old dog and everything the old dog learned and transfer it to the new puppy what a time saver that would be for everybody. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We always start at zero. And, you know, that includes you and I. We were both equally born knowing nothing. We had to be potty trained. We had to learn how to speak. We had to learn how to eat. And nobody was given an advantage over anybody else as far as this knowledge goes. There are natural inclinations to be interested in certain topics, but you know, that would be your gift if you're lucky enough to find it. But you don't have to be gifted. You can force it. If you're dedicated, you can make your own gift. David Graham said, I could play the piano and read sheet music when I was 17, but not anymore. And yet the piano and the sheet music haven't changed. So what does that tell you? Muffin Man says, I appreciate the analogy. It makes a lot of sense. You and Doug Betts are inspiration. Well, thank you. And on behalf of Doug Betts, I'm sure he would also appreciate that. We put the information out for free, and I do believe I speak for Doug when I say we wish that we had this option when we were learning it. But we're the pioneers, right? We're the ones developing what hadn't been done before. And we're dealing with a lot of new technology that's since gone obsolete that we had to learn about the difference between CD plus R and CD, was it DVD plus R, DVD minus R, and CDs versus CDRWs? You know, all the DMCA stuff, the Macrovision, all the different versions of Windows and how to control networking, and Novell and OS2, Windows NT, all that stuff you don't have to learn. We did. And that information doesn't really benefit us at all, other than the logical processes used in learning and how computers think. That's still the same, but how you activate it and how you manipulate it has changed. The interface is different now. But the logic is still there. And so you sort of have an advantage when you don't have all that baggage that Doug and I and others, like, you know, Scott Merrill and others that have been in this business for decades. You don't need to know Banyan Vines or Lotus Notes. That's the good thing. And over years and years and years of things like, you know, oh, now there's USB, and now there's Wi-Fi, and a different version of Wi-Fi, and another version of Wi-Fi, and these are the conditions, and these are the caveats, and then this is Bluetooth, and these are the conditions, and these are the caveats, and man, it never gets dull. Although this year, it's gotten a little dull. For the first time in forever, things have just really come to a crawl. They're still progressing, but not at the pace they used to. Same could be said for me. But part of that's age, but part of that's also the industry. Like, I can't jump ahead of where the technology is because I don't know where it's going. And at the same time, I'm getting older, and I'm glad I don't have to keep up as hard as I used to. I don't know that I could. Sean Gallagher said he got home and his monitor was off and his power cord went bad. I'm shocked because I've never seen a power cord go out. That's pretty weird. A lot of times if a power cable's bad, it's just not fully plugged in. Or it's too loose. Like if you've got one of these like connectors where it's got slots or holes, they've widened out, and you can get some pliers when it's unplugged and squeeze them back closed. You don't want to close them entirely, then it'll be too tight. But you can sort of squeeze those connections, because after being plugged in and unplugged, even wall outlets will do that. And I'm sure we've all experienced this, when you go to plug like a hair dryer in and the plug just falls out. The outlet has loosened up, and it's faster and cheaper to replace the outlet than to open it. You know, it's high voltage. So if you don't know what you're doing, you certainly don't want to go in there with metal tools and electrocute yourself. You just buy an outlet for 75 cents and replace it, and you're good for another 20 years. That usually is what happens with cables. It's not that the cable itself goes out, unless it got burned or chewed. If you have a pet that maybe chew on cables, or if there was a big power spike and it melted the inside of the cable. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's just the connectors got loose and you have to tighten them back up. But for as cheap as power cables are, I mean, why not just replace it? Mark Leibowitz started his career in 1987, so he's been doing this 4 years longer than me, because I started as a hobbyist in the 80s, but I didn't become a professional until 1991. So Mark's got me by a few years. He said I had to do much of it with veritable stone knives and bear skins when I could learn on CompuServe, good old CompuServe. And when it came to the tech, the buck stopped with me. Yeah, regardless, right? You're going to find an answer for your customers. Okay, I think this install is finally downloaded and installed, or update rather. So let's go ahead and hit restart. That was a long install. And if this install does what Microsoft says it will, then it'll fix those from happening again. The irony is, it's rich, isn't it? Time will tell. When this reboots, we're going to check the device manager. Remember, we're just primarily just checking to see what drivers we were going to get. I will download AMD Adrenalin regardless. That's irrelevant to whatever we get from Windows. I will always download the latest AMD Adrenalin on any AMD system that's on my bench. If a customer says, hey, I need my computer worked on and it's an AMD computer, I am downloading the AMD Adrenalin zone. What if it's already got it? Well, then it won't hurt anything. Because in most cases, 98% of the time, the customer has a very old version of AMD Adrenalin that works. It just doesn't work as well as a new version. It's free, so why would you not do it? It doesn't make any sense. David Graham said a customer called me, said his computer won't turn on. I ran over and it was the power strip. The cat turned it off. Sure. I've seen bad power strips causing problems, bad UPSs causing problems, bad power cables, and bad users causing problems. All of those are easy to replace except the user. But I get paid the same. Let me make my window a little bit smaller here. So when we come back up, we're going to check the device manager. We're going to download the AMD Adrenalin software. We'll look for if there's any other missing drivers. And then we can run Crystal Dismark on it. And I think that'll wrap it up. So maybe another half an hour to the show. So if you're just joining us or you've been procrastinating asking a question, you still have time. There's Mitch Morrison joining us in the chat room with a dad joke of why the dandelion quit dating, because it kept getting blown off. There you go. But I'm bummed. Good to see you, Mitch. Happy Friday. Gawoon Peter says hello, joins us in the live chat. Welcome in. We are broadcasting worldwide around the planet in 4K. This is not a television show. You are our live audience. You ever seen, what was it, some TV show recorded live and recorded in front of a live audience? We're recorded in front of a live audience. That's you watching right now. Assuming you're watching Friday, the 31st of July, 2026. We'd love to see you in the chat room. Say hello. If you're interested, if you look for like help desk information on LinkedIn, you'll find some great stories of some technical challenges people have with people. And that one of the lessons that people will give on LinkedIn is that knowing the tech is only half the job. Knowing how to communicate with people is the other half of the job. It's not enough that you fix the problem, you've got to handle the customer properly. And there's just a certain way to do it, or even if you do the technical side correctly, you still may have a pissed off customer who's not happy with you because they don't like the way you talk to them, or the overall demeanor you had. And that's very true. Somebody said, look, closing your laptop lid is not restarting your computer. People don't know. You don't have to, make fun of them or talk to them like they're children. Like I said, we're all born knowing nothing. Some of us just don't care, right, about computers. It's a necessary evil. I need this to do my job. I wouldn't have one otherwise, is what some people will tell you. So just fix it. I don't care. Or they genuinely would like more information, but sometimes they're asking more than they realize, and you have to find a way to tell them without insulting them that it's a very difficult question to answer without certain experience. And that can be a tightrope sometimes, but there's some great tech support stories on LinkedIn from people working in the industry about misunderstandings with customers. And it can cost you a job. You have a misunderstanding with the CEO of the company, you probably aren't going to be working at that company much longer. When I worked at Intel, the CEO was Andy Grove, one of the original founders. And if Andy Grove was visiting the campus, you were on your best behavior and try to stay out of his way. Not because he was a nasty person. He was the nicest guy. One of my coworkers came over to my laboratory where I was working in Intel, and he goes, "You won't believe what just happened." I go, "What?" He goes, "I turned the corner and I walked right into Andy Grove." It's like, ooh. Just wasn't expecting anybody around the corner. Just another day, walking, and then boom, right into the CEO of the company. And I go, "Well, what'd he do?" And he said, "Oh, he asked if I was okay, and I apologized." He goes, "But when I was walking away, I imagine he looked over at his security and went." Nothing happened. It's just funny. You wouldn't say that if it was anybody else at the company. It didn't matter who it was, but that's the CEO, and you just walked right into him. And luckily, he's a nice guy. But there are some not so nice people in charge that would say, All right, let's get back to our device manager. Let's see where we're at on this. I want to get rid of that wallpaper. It drives me crazy. Let's go to personalize, and we'll just set it to a Windows 11 default theme. Let's right click. Oh, look, there's a heat warning in effect. Who would have thought? That's not the heat of the computer, that's the heat of the user. Let's go to the device manager. Where are we at? After Windows updates, do we still need some drivers? We do. There's 3 drivers missing. Now remember, we went to Kamrui's website and we downloaded that zip file. If I want to just hit this install bat right here, install drivers.bat, double click it. I'm going to get some drivers I may not necessarily need, but they shouldn't hurt anything. All right, that's probably what most people would do. May not be what I would do, but for the sake of getting through this, since we're running a little late, I don't want to hunt down what those 3 drivers are. As far as I know, if I just put the AMD Adrenalin driver on, which I'm going to do anyway, it might have already resolved those 3 issues. And now that I've said it out loud, I probably should have changed the order, but this doesn't hurt anything either way. We're fine. With those drivers installed, I don't know if a restart is necessary. Let's see. So these 3 things may still be related to the AMD Adrenalin driver. That's a little bit worrisome. So what's worrisome is that those drivers didn't require a restart and they didn't seem to do anything. But maybe because we have to restart. But I'm not going to wait. Let's just go AMD Adrenalin and let's download it, because like I said, for the 4th or 5th time, I'm doing that anyway. Regardless of the device manager, I want the latest. This is a pretty small download. It doesn't take very long. I'll hit open. And yes, we can close that out just to get rid of the noise, visual noise. And let me get rid of camera 1 so you can see the whole, visualize this whole screen here. It unpacks the installer and gets ready to install, and you'll see it's going to put our chipset driver in and our graphics driver in. Whether or not you want to help AMD by giving anonymous data feedback to them when things crash is up to you. It's all anonymized and nobody cares, but they appreciate it if the computer crashes, that you don't have to tell them and open a support ticket. They already know. If it's happening to a bunch of people and they get flooded with these automated and anonymous crash reports, then they can identify what's causing it and fix it before you maybe even installed it yourself. It's already fixed. So that's the benefit of choosing to participate. Hopefully enough other people are participating, you still get the benefit regardless. Mark Leibowitz was asking Mitch Morrison, if I send a letter to a guy who collects old monitors, have I just written a screensaver? Good old geek jokes. This whole Windows system backup, just as a reminder, if that's really annoying you, just click those 3 dots there on the top right corner and say, turn these notifications off. Turn off, oh, this is for OneDrive, not for backup. Same thing, whenever these notifications pop up, you can individually say, never show me that subject matter again. You can also go into notification settings and just disable all notifications in the future if you choose to. Of course, that might disable notifications you want. I can't read your mind. I don't know what you want. Unless you tell me. Okay, let's see. Nothing else in the chat room. Very good. I'm hopeful that after downloading this, we reboot, and I'm hoping the device manager will be happy. And that time remaining is wrong. It won't take 7 minutes. It'll probably be done in about 2 minutes. We'll see. The benefit of doing this live is being able to demonstrate in real life how long things actually take, so that you know how much time to expect it to take if you decide to do the same thing I'm doing. Obviously, your internet speed, the speed of your computer, and if you're running any other multitasking events at the same time will impact that, but you would know that already, right? So if you have any other questions or concerns for me regarding this mini PC or other technical related content, I invite you and encourage you to ask now, because we're just about done with today's broadcast. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today, hanging out with us. There goes our video driver again. When you see the screen blank out and you see the resolution just got increased to 4K mode there, everything got smaller. That's why that happened. It's probably going to put it back right now. Let's see. I'm not touching anything. I'm just watching, just like you are. Yep, it put it back. Very good. But it did put the driver back. It put the resolution back. It updated the driver. So clearly, we had an old driver, or that likely would not have happened. And clearly, it didn't take 7 minutes. So here we go. Launch, keep AMD software up to date, and close. Oh, and that doesn't want to reboot either. Now, in just a moment, we should see the AMD screen for the Adrenaline software appear here in just a moment as it initializes and executes. You can still do other things. You don't have to wait for it, but I'm going to wait for it. John Lewis says, thanks to everyone for your contributions today. Thank you, John. I'm going to skip this for right now. And you can see we're all current, up to date. Everything's good. Close that out. And I want to look in the device manager just to see if anything has changed. Look at that. So I don't think we needed anything from Kamrui. If I had to do this all over again, I wouldn't even have downloaded those drivers. And there's no reason for Lou Greenia to be afraid of it. It's really simple. And if it wasn't simple, or you're confused about something, just reach out and ask. We're always happy to point you in the right direction if we know the answer. Let me restart just to make sure everything takes effect. We'll run Crystal Disk Info. We'll get some readings on this internal storage drive. And we'll wrap it up. And I'm going to unplug my USB drive. I believe I'm done with that now. I've got all the utilities I need copied off. Gawoon Peter with a €1 super chat. Thank you, Peter. We don't have a sponsor like most other channels. I'd say the closest thing I have to a sponsor would be the VIP-URCD keys, but I use them anyway, and I'm going to recommend them anyway. So we're not doing anything any differently other than the number of reminders. And given how frequently we get new viewers and how frequently viewers come back after a long hiatus, it's important to remind people that maybe forgot or haven't been updated for a long time or are new here. So I think that works out best for everybody. Let me run my optimizer. We sell this. This generates revenue for the channel. You buy it once, you can run it on as many computers as you want. There's no activation or product key required. We simply we rely on the honor system that you're not going to screw us over. And we'll know, because if we don't make any money at it, we simply won't keep offering it. We'll just keep it private. This is a tool I designed for myself. And this doesn't do anything to your computer that you can't do yourself. And everything is authorized by Microsoft. So there's no jeopardy to future consequences as a result of any of these changes we're making. It will not affect Windows updates in the future the way other enthusiasts will offer utilities that could and likely do cause negative consequences in the future. As a professional technician, it would be profoundly irresponsible and against any company policy, if you work in an IT department, to run any of that. It would be highly unusual for a company to authorize you in the IT department to use a third-party utility software. I'm not saying they're not allowed to, but in my experience, it's almost universal that any major company, government entity, a hospital, even a lawyer's office, a doctor's office, if they're trusting you to do the work, then they don't know better if you're using free software utilities because they trust you. And if you're doing that to your customers, I would say you're an untrustworthy and unprofessional, in my opinion. If you're getting paid to run free utilities, you're also violating the license terms, because free is often for personal use only. There was a lawsuit against Geek Squad because they were doing just that. They were profiting off of using free software, and the free software was not intended for anybody to profit from unless you bought a license. That's not fair. I spent all the time and effort to write the program and give it away, and now you're using it to charge people, and you're not sharing the profit with me? You better believe there's going to be a lawsuit. Also, a lot of the free utilities cause problems. Not necessarily immediately, but over time. And as a result, you're going to have to fix all those issues, and that's going to cost somebody some money. What you do at home is your business. But I wouldn't do something at home that I wouldn't do at a customer's. I wouldn't do anything to my own equipment unless under certain circumstances, say I had a computer whose sole purpose was for me to play with, that I didn't count on it. I wouldn't use my main mission critical machine to be running experiments on and see what happens. You might. I won't ever do that. I might grab a spare computer, make a backup of it, and then do whatever the hell I want to it. Or I have an old computer and I want to try and desolder a BIOS chip on it, knowing there's a good chance I don't know what I'm doing and I'll break it. But that's how I learn. But I'm not going to learn on a mission critical piece of equipment, because that's just foolish. And it's not professional. If you're a home user, you don't have to be professional. Okay, let's close this out. We're good here. Looks like Secure Boot is off. I'm fine with Secure Boot being off. I'm not worried about it. You can turn it on in the BIOS. It's no big deal. Let's see. Crystal Disk Mark is what I want. So let's go over to the Crystal Disk Mark software. Whoops. There it is. And let's see what sort of numbers we get out of this. I'm going to guess somewhere around 3,400 on the reads and writes, but let's see. Andy says, thank you, Carey and Mara. Thanks. It's a nice to have a special mini palooza. Well, we're glad to have you here, Andy. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, our Gen 3 drive is running at Gen 3 speeds. What a shocker. Mark Liebowitz said, as a fellow pro, I highly recommend Uncle Carey's Windows 11 Optimizer. I use it in my business as well, and it has improved the consistency of my setups considerably. Well, that's why I made it, right? You and I are kind of in the same boat. He gets it. Thank you for the endorsement. I appreciate that. Free testimonials. I really built it for me. The Windows 10 Optimizer was something I needed, and when I showed it to everybody, they said, oh, can we get that? I never intended to make it merch. But I'm glad I did, because it's another source of revenue for us to keep us afloat. And we don't care how many machines you use it on. We don't care if you charge customers to use it. As long as you buy it, we're fine with it. And as long as you don't give it away. Like, you see that I've run it on this computer, right? You saw me just run the optimizing tool. It's done. I just delete it. I never need it again unless Windows Update changes things. It's not a program you install. It's just making some configuration changes that Microsoft permits. But instead of going into 15 different windows and finding all the different menu options, it just does it with the click of a button. It's way faster and way more consistent, and I don't have to think, did I already do that? You gotta have a checklist and start checking things off. What a pain in the butt. Just let the software do it. Any repetitive task should be automated. Ooh, look at those write speeds. That's terrible. When you see write speeds that are that low, that's indicative of a heat-related problem, and I'll show you. Check this out. I don't want to continue the test because this drive is clearly running hot. And if it's running hot, it may be that heat, the thermal pad that's on there, maybe I didn't line it up right. It'd be worth opening it up and looking again. But the reason I know this is I've seen this before. It's one thing for the write speed to be slower than the read speed. That's normal, but not that much slower. That's like 70% slower. So if we give this a minute to cool off, and we tell Crystal Dismark only do the write test, you can go up here to your settings. Let's see. No, that's not what I want. Where's it at? Just do the write test. Okay, you see how I did that? Under Profile, I selected Write. And let's just do the write test now that it's had a few minutes. While I've been doing that, let's see if this number is closer to the thousands than the hundreds now. If this number is significantly bigger, it's because the drive cooled off. And the drive is still slow. So the next question is the drive still hot? Or is that the way the drive was designed to run? So one of the things we can do if we pull up Crystal Disk Info is just look at the manufacturer's specifications, assuming we can find them. I think that's a heat issue, but it's quite possible these no-name brand drives are just really bad performers. I wouldn't think so, but it's possible. What's interesting is this drive says it supports Gen 4. I'm sorry, I take that back. It's Gen 3, my bad. Gen 3 by 4 is what it supports, and Gen 3 by 4 is what it's working at. I misread it. Temperature is good on it. So I don't know who makes this. It's got a serial number. I'd have to go back in the video and pull the manufacturer name. It's kind of not a good sign when they don't embed the name in the drive. That's not a sign of a company that cares about their brand. You can see it's a brand new drive. You know, it's only had the equivalent of 117 hours on it, which is more than I put on it, but the factory had to have some time on it, right? Maybe a little bit high, but still. It's only been powered on 15 times. So I'm going to do this one more time. Let's see if we just do the write test. See if it's still slow. It's still slow. Okay, so this is going to require a little bit of research. So what I would do, the first thing I'm going to do is rewind this video and take a look at who the manufacturer of this drive is. Thankfully, I've got it on film, or digital. And let me fast forward here through today's video. Let's get that machine open, and where I walk up to the camera. Here it is. And the name of the drive is what? I'm waiting until I'm holding it in front of the camera. I'm walked up to the camera. And at some point, I rotate. Let's be further back. There we go. Whoops. Went too far back. Derlar. It looks like D-E-R-L-E-R. Okay, I'm going to use the Windows snipping tool. I'm going to grab a screenshot of this drive. Do that again. I don't like that screenshot. Go to the snipping tool. Then I'm going to grab image of this image. Okay, and that copies it into the buffer. Then I'm going to go to Gemini. Whoops, I didn't spell it right. Gemini.google.com. And I'm going to hit the plus button and click I want to upload files. And go to the pictures and the subfolder of screenshots. That's the default where Windows places them. And select the image, the screenshot I just took without any text. I'm just going to put that right into Gemini and see what it tells me. And let's see if I can share the screen with you here, if it's going to let me. Window capture. Here we are. Good. Brand, Derlar, model, FP3, capacity, serial number. See, it's reading the image for me, so I don't have to worry about getting a magnifying glass out. And we can ask it, what are the reported read and write speeds? And it can search the internet and do the research for me. Okay, so the sequential read speed, we're actually getting significantly faster than this. Actual world benchmarks typically measure around 2300. We're doing much better, but we're only getting half of this. That's a little concerning. Using AI, when you use it right, it's like any other tool. The tool doesn't do the work for you. It's assisting you with making the work easier. You can pound a nail in to a piece of lumber with a rock or a shoe. You could use the end of a screwdriver. You could use your imagination. Nothing works better than a hammer for that task. So why is our number so low? Why are we at 852 if it's not a heat issue? Well, I guess I know what I'll be doing after the show. This evening I'll try some experiments out. And I guess we'll follow this up with a part 2 and let you know what I find, if we need to reach out to Kamrui and find out, is this normal or is there something wrong? Because at this point, it's definitely not a heat issue. The heat would occur after, like we did that series of reads, and then we go do the series of writes. That's the default way that Crystal Disk Mark works. Causes the drive to heat up. But that's half speed. We should be getting twice 840 on the writes. That may mean that the slot it's in is not working correctly. More than likely, the controller on the drive isn't up to snuff. We've had instances with Kingston drives where there was a bad batch of them and they weren't replaced unless you complained. Is this the same deal? If I took that drive out and put it into a different system, will it still perform the same? That's how I can define if it's the system or if it's the drive. So that's why I've got some work ahead of me. It's not really a problem for me. I don't think any end user would notice, but I wouldn't feel comfortable advertising it the way the manufacturer advertises it. And then when I verify it, because I don't have any faith, I verify it. And the verification shows a problem. Is it driver related? I mean, we just put the latest chipset driver on there. But again, by taking this out and moving it into, the other slot or an entirely different computer, if it stays consistently slow, we know it's the drive. If it goes faster, we know it's the system. And that would be basic diagnostic 101. And I think, it saved the best for last, right? That was kind of a surprise. I didn't see that coming. And that's why you always verify. Validate, verify, validate, verify. At least if you want to be held accountable for it. That's what I would do. Craig Casabona has renewed his membership. Now a member for 35 months. Thank you, Craig. Carey says, how's Mitch doing? I haven't seen him in a while. He's right in there. Say hello to Mitch. He's doing well. We talk regularly and keeping himself busy, working on his acting and all the other things that Mitch does. Andy mentions a lot of times NVMe drives don't report their temps accurately, but clearly something's wrong, right? This isn't a heat-related problem because once it gets hot, it will slow down the reads and the writes. Also, they don't take long to cool down. Just maybe 30 seconds is cool enough. But if we do the write test again, if we go back over to the test here, and we change the profile back to the, let's just do a read. In theory, if this was a heat-related problem, we'd see similar numbers on this side. But the fact that this number will be in the 3000s and this number is in the hundreds, there's something wrong. It's often, the first place I look is heat. But you see, we're still running about the same speed. We would not be running the same speed on the left and only have the heat affect us on the right. It would affect both sides equally. So once again, if we change the profile back to write only, we'll be back to 800 again every time. I'm very confident that that's not heat related. That's either a driver, a bad controller, a bad slot, and more than likely a bad drive. Something on the drive isn't working right. But I'd have to move it into another system to verify it. I could go faster than that through a USB adapter. So just so you know, it is not matching what it's supposed to be doing. If I don't figure it out, or if I do figure it out, I'll let KAMRUI know and see what advice they have for us, and we'll pass on their response to you. So we'll follow this up in a part 2. Not the biggest issue, but not acceptable. Now you could say maybe you should have tested that before you wiped and reinstalled Windows so I would know if I caused it. Fair point. Absolutely. But I can also tell you that I've done this countless times on different models and makes and manufacturers of computers, laptops, mini PCs, and different makes and models and manufacturers of solid state drives. It's not like I don't know what I'm doing. Not my first rodeo. That doesn't mean I'm impervious to making mistakes, but I didn't do anything any differently. But the results are different. And that puts us right at 4 o'clock. That puts us right at the 3-hour mark, which is just a great stopping point because we went an hour over because of how long that particular update took. But you got to see a real live unboxing, exactly what's in the box, what you should expect it to look like, an understanding of the value of what's being offered here for your own confirmation. You don't have to take my word for anything, nor should you ever take anyone's word for anything. I verified it live and in warts and all, right? And in this case, I don't know the answer to the problem yet, but I will get there, and we'll just have to follow it up on a part 2. In the meantime, you know, without a second unit, I just don't know if that's normal. And until I hear back from Kamrui and just verify my work that I put the drive back correctly, try it in the other slot, try it in another computer, verify if it is the drive, if Kamrui is going to replace it or what Kamrui is going to say about that. That's going to take some time. We couldn't do that today if we wanted to. We can start the process today. Given it's a weekend, we probably won't hear anything until next week. But I'd like, before I write the email to them, I want to verify my own work, because that's faster. And Westside Lord pops in and says hello just as we're saying goodbye. So thank you for stopping in. You can always rewind this video back to the beginning and rewatch what you've missed. And I hope you found it educational and hopefully entertaining. On Sunday, we have a brand new computer from our friends over at Minis Forum. And I'll show it to you here just on the website while I've got this screen up. Might as well. Whoops, I didn't mean to bring up the Microsoft Store. Just go over here, I'll type in Minis Forum. This one we purchased from Amazon, and it's the NAB 9S, which is not here. I thought it would be right on the home page. It's a brand new release. Product. What's it going to be listed under? Is it an Elite? Let's see. I'm not sure what this really throws me. We're into the views. It says it's alphabetical. NAB 6, NAB 6, NAB 9 Plus. We did that review last year. Where is the NAB 9S? Maybe it's not listed as an Elite. It's going to be Intel 13900. And I thought it, because it's new, I thought it would be here. Oh, wait a minute. This moves. Still not there. How about if I just search for it? Minis Forum, NAB 9S. Does that do it? Or is this an advertisement? It's a sponsor. How about this one? I got there. Okay, here's the deal with the NAB 9S. That's got to be a bare bones price because we paid twice. We paid after sales tax a little over $800. But that included 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. This one must be bare bones, meaning there's no storage, no RAM, and no operating system. Yep, it's bare bones. So for $400, and then it's got the lid. I think you just press on it, it opens, I think. This is what we bought right here. 32 gigs of RAM. It is socketable RAM. And I believe it's DDR4, so it's the cheaper RAM. And 1 terabyte of NVMe with a 13900 HK CPU from Intel. At $775, we paid another $60 in sales tax, so it was a little over $800 for us. And we're going to unbox that and review it. And here we're talking about those extended warranties. As I mentioned, if you're spending that much kind of money and you want to make sure you want it for at least 3 years without any problems, pay the extra $40. The default warranty on this, well, I'll tell you what, let's save it for Sunday. We'll get into the specs and the overview on Sunday's show. And I hope that you will join us for that. I don't know how much of that I'm covering up, but hopefully I didn't cover up anything. But you can obviously go visit that at your own time if you want to get a heads up for what's going on Sunday. So yeah, that's what's coming up on Sunday's show, and I don't know why. What is going on? Okay, I got to check my keyboard shortcuts because things are a little wonky with this OBS update. I got to remember to do that after. I got homework to do. Between now and the next time I see you, between this and OBS, I should keep myself out of trouble for a little while. Thank you, Buster. Thank you, Mark Gaines. And super shout out and thank you to Frankie B. Such generous contributors. I can't thank you enough for supporting us. To everybody in green equally, thank you guys so much for continuing to support us so we can continue to bring these videos to you. For everybody who just watches the videos and they don't financially support us, we still love having you here. Don't think that you're less important. As long as you're polite, we love having more in the community. Regardless of what role you play, you need to be here to play any role. And so for everybody, we appreciate your sense of community, and we hope you'll continue to join us in whatever role you're most comfortable in. And hopefully we will grow the community with more like-minded individuals. Once again, thank you, Craig Casabona, for renewing your membership, and also there was another membership renewal from Dean Nelev, I believe, and also our friend Peter out there in the Netherlands with a €1 super chat today. It all adds up, and we can't thank you enough for that support and generosity. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thanks to Mara, our channel administrator. She did our thumbnail, all of our video notes, as she always does. If you want to reach out to us, as I mentioned earlier, when I say the buck stops with me regarding anything I endorse, as well as, trying to help you if you got yourself stuck in a hole or a technical issue, reach out to us. Our email address is right here on the screen. It is the only proper way to reach out to us. If you try to reach out to us any other way, we probably aren't getting it. showcasecreate@gmail.com is how you will reach us, and we'll do whatever we can to provide answers or solutions to your questions. If you see things like this that you want to purchase, like this one we wouldn't sell, but the minis form we did buy, and when we're done reviewing it, which might take a couple months, we do offer them for sale in order to reimburse our costs so we can buy something else and let the videos keep going. You've got to be in the USA, and if you see something that we've shown here and you're interested in it, we do all that privately in email. It's not for public discussion for obvious reasons. And if we can help you out, you can help us out, everybody's happy. But it starts with you reaching out to us first. We don't go knocking on doors, okay? Not a salesman. I would be terrible at one if I was. But if you reach out, we'll always respond. So thank you again to everybody in our community. Thank you for watching. If you're new here, we hope you'll be a regular, not irregular. We're hoping you will be a regular here in our community. And we'll look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. Have a happy Friday. We're back at 1 o'clock Pacific time as always, and we hope you'll join us then. Until then, bye for now.